Test subject number 24. The subject lasted 2 minutes and 45 seconds after administration of Valkyrie. Time of death, 4:22 a.m. Han Zhao's eyes flickered open, his mind hazy. I should be alone at home. Who's talking? Blinding light greeted him, and he instinctively shielded his face. The familiar confines of his VR capsule were gone. In their place was a cold, sterile environment. A white ceiling above him and metallic walls that shimmered faintly under the clinical lighting. The room resembled an ICU, with machines surrounding him, their wiry tendrils attached to his bare chest. A freezing metal table pressed against his back. Around him stood several people in white coats, their wide-eyed stares making him feel like an alien specimen. Their silence was deafening, their expressions unnerving. What's going on? His last memory was accepting a leveling quest in Galaxy, the VR MMO he had spent countless hours mastering. Then, there was the acrid smell of burnt eggs before everything went dark. Quickly inform Ms. Gila. The test subject has come back to life, one of the researchers shouted. Call the guards, another yelled. The words hit Han Xiao like a jolt. Test subject? Back to life? Guards? Adrenaline surged through him. He glanced at the people in lab coats, noting their cautious distance, and decided not to wait for whatever guards they had summoned. Without a second thought, he yanked the wires from his body, swung his legs over the table, and bolted toward the nearest door. Stop him, someone cried, but no one dared to get in his way. Han Xiao barreled into a corridor, his bare feet slapping against the cold floor. It was a stark, endless white, with sleek walls and dimly pulsing lights. He barely had time to process his surroundings before a squad of guards in black uniforms appeared from both ends, electric batons crackling in their hands. His eyes darted to the crest on their uniforms, a half-plant emblem he recognized immediately. The Germinal Organization? From planet Aquamarine? In version 1? The realization made his blood run cold. The Germinal Organization was a notorious antagonist faction from Galaxy, wiped out long before the game's later expansions. And yet, here they were, armed and advancing on him. One guard lunged, swinging his baton at Han Xiao. Reflexively, he raised his arm to block it. Pain exploded through his body as electricity surged through him, his muscles seizing as if his bones were being split apart. He crumpled to the ground, gasping for breath. Is this pain calibration set to 100%? He thought bitterly. In the game, pain was capped at 40% for safety reasons. This felt far too real. The guards hauled him up and dragged him into a small, pitch-black room. The cold silence was broken only by his ragged breathing. Han Xiao rubbed his throbbing wrist, his mind racing to make sense of the situation. I've transmigrated into Galaxy? His jaw dropped as the pieces fell into place. Galaxy was no ordinary game. It was a massive, fully immersive VR MMO, with a vast, procedurally generated universe that could handle millions of players simultaneously. Han Xiao had spent years mastering its intricacies, making a name for himself as one of the top power levelers. But now, he wasn't just playing the game, he was in it. More memories poured into his mind, fragmented yet vivid. The year was 687 in the Galaxy calendar, a year before the game's version 1 officially launched. He wasn't just in the game, he had been thrown back in time. Am I an NPC now? His thoughts were interrupted by a glowing blue interface that materialized before his eyes. Name Han Xiao. Race, human/carbon-based yellow. Status, NPC. Countdown to version 1.0 launch. 358 days 11 hours 03 minutes. Level 1. Experience 0. Attributes. Strength 2, Dexterity 2, Endurance 3, Intelligence 3, Mystery 1, Charm 2, Luck 1. Health, 2330 injured. Abilities. Concentration, plus 10% learning and crafting speed. Low-level willpower, plus 3 resistance. Han Zhao's heart raced. I still have the interface. While his status as an NPC was unsettling, the system retained its familiar mechanics. He could still level up, which meant he might have a chance to survive. But the countdown timer loomed ominously. Does this mean real players will arrive soon? The door creaked open, spilling light into the dark room. Silhouetted figures entered, led by a woman with a commanding presence. Her voice, smooth yet sharp, cut through the tension. The subject's condition, she asked. Han Xiao squinted, his eyes adjusting to the light. The woman stepped closer, revealing striking burgundy hair that cascaded over her shoulders, and a form-fitting black bodysuit that accentuated her dangerous allure. Her piercing gaze sent a shiver down his spine. Gila. Han Xiao recognized her instantly. Gila, the Crimson Snake, was one of the most feared characters in Galaxy's early stages. Her rise to power would eventually make her a celestial-class figure. But for now, she was still a rising star within the Germinal organization. The subject appears stable, a researcher replied nervously. Gila's cold gaze swept over Han Xiao, her lips curling into a faint enigmatic smile. Good. Conduct a blood test. I want results immediately. 2 guards stepped forward, their hands gripping his arms like iron clamps. Han Xiao didn't resist. He couldn't, not yet. His mind churned with plans. I have a year until the players arrive. If I play my cards right, I can survive. And maybe even turn the tables. As the guards dragged him away, Han Xiao smirked to himself. Let's see who the real NPC is in this game. The results of Han Xiao's blood tests came in quickly. Gila reviewed the data with a sharp frown. No abnormalities detected? She asked, her voice carrying a dangerous edge. Valkyrie primarily affects the brain, Lin Weixian replied matter-of-factly. We'll need to open the head up for a proper assessment. Han Zhao's stomach churned. Open the head up. Are you kidding me? Gila waved her hand dismissively. He's the only subject to have ever survived the experiment. We'll leave that option out for now. A flicker of hope lit up Han Zhao's heart. His survival was, for the moment, his most valuable bargaining chip. Lin Weixian didn't appear pleased, but kept his objections to himself. In that case, Lin continued reluctantly, we'll observe him to see if there are any changes. Proceed with the brainwashing, Gila ordered suddenly. Han Zhao's blood ran cold. Brainwashing? In the game, being brainwashed simply meant aligning with the faction that performed it. But here it wasn't just a status change. It was the loss of his very identity. This can't happen. The good news, Han Xiao realized, was that the Germinal organization's brainwashing methods were crude. They relied on primitive sensory recalibration techniques, which required the subject to have low intelligence to be effective. With his current intelligence stat boosted by Valkyrie, and his low-level willpower ability, Han Xiao was better off than most, but he still wasn't immune. He needed at least 10 points in intelligence to resist completely. Leveling up is my only chance, Han Xiao thought grimly. His civilian class offered random stat increases upon leveling, but relying on luck to boost intelligence was a gamble he wasn't willing to take. He needed to unlock a new class, fast. Take him, Gila commanded. 2 guards hauled Han Xiao to another room, stark and sterile like the rest, but this one held a shelf lined with books. His eyes scanned the titles. Tom's Introduction to Machinery, a theory on human genes and lizard genes. Rand's Hypothesis. One book stood out to him. Tom's Introduction to Machinery. That's it, a class book. Ignoring the guards, Han Xiao strode toward the shelf. His boldness startled everyone in the room. The guards drew their weapons, aiming them at his back. Please don't shoot. I'm valuable, remember? Han Xiao prayed silently. Hold your fire, Lin Weixian ordered, curiosity gleaming in his eyes. Let's see what he's up to. Han Xiao exhaled in relief and picked up the book. He flipped it open, scanning the dense paragraphs and intricate diagrams. Though incomprehensible at first glance, his persistence paid off. After a moment, the interface lit up. Basic assembly. Progress 2%, plus 0.2% from concentration. It works. Han Zhao's heart raced. The system's automated learning feature was processing the knowledge, even if his understanding lagged behind. Lin Weixian watched, intrigued, as Han Xiao continued to read in silence. Basic assembly. Progress 15%, 29%, 48%. Han Zhao's reading speed increased, the pressure mounting with every second. He knew time was running out. Just as he reached 90% progress, Gila entered the room. What's going on here? She demanded. Lin Weixian gestured toward Han Xiao. He's displaying enhanced learning capabilities. If you allow me to. No. Gila cut him off. No head opening. Thank you. Han Xiao thought bitterly, not entirely reassured by her disinterest in cranial surgery. Is the brainwashing apparatus ready? Gila asked. Lin nodded. Preparations are complete. Damn it. I need more time. Han Xiao urged himself on, flipping through the pages at lightning speed. A familiar notification popped up at last. Basic assembly. Progress 100%. You have learned basic knowledge of machinery, unlocking the mechanic talent tree. New profession unlocked. Mechanic novice. Warmth surged through Han Xiao's body as the new class attributes kicked in. +1 intelligence, +1 endurance, and 2 free attribute points. He also gained new skills like basic maintenance and basic enhancement. For the first time since his arrival, a flicker of optimism pierced his despair. He quickly accessed his updated interface. Name Han Xiao. Class, Mechanic Novice, LV10/200 EXP. Attributes, Strength 3, Dexterity 3, Endurance 5, Intelligence 4, Mystery 1, Charm 2, Luck 1. Free attribute points 2. I need 1 more intelligence to resist brainwashing. Han Xiao dumped both free points into intelligence, raising it to 6. He still needed more. Desperation drove him to an unorthodox idea. He glanced at a guard's holstered handgun and walked toward him, his movements slow and deliberate. What is he doing? Gila asked, narrowing her eyes. Let's find out, Lin said, intrigued. At her nod, the guard unloaded the weapon and handed it to Han Xiao. As soon as it touched his hands, the interface lit up. 73 Wasp handgun. Basic assembly. Progress 2%. 28 EXP gained. Basic assembly. Progress 4%. 32 EXP gained. Han Xiao repeated the process, disassembling and reassembling the gun at an accelerating pace. He knew he was racing the clock, but each cycle brought him closer to safety. Proceed with brainwashing now, Gila ordered. Not yet. Han Xiao thought desperately. He funneled every bit of experience into leveling up his mechanic class. Mechanic Novice. Level up. LV1-LV2. +1 intelligence, +1 endurance, +2 free attribute points. Relief washed over him. That was close. With his intelligence now at 10, he was finally safe from brainwashing, for the moment. Han Xiao straightened up, his mind steeling itself for the next phase. If this is how I have to survive, so be it. Gila's cold gaze lingered on him. Interesting. Let's see how far you can go. Subject 24. Han Xiao was strapped to a metal seat with his eyes forcefully pried open by extensions. Before him was a black screen with speakers on either side. He was unable to move at all. How long is the procedure? 12 hours. Keep watch here, ordered Gila before she left with some grunts. Lin Weixian activated the procedure, and the screen lit up. It began to display all kinds of geometric shapes and patterns that morphed continuously. The vivid, rapidly changing colors and harshly alternating music caused Han Xiao much discomfort. While he wanted to close his eyes badly, he was unable to, and soon, his eyeballs turned bloodshot and swollen. Ah, this is so uncomfortable. It was a primitive method of brainwashing. The theory behind it was to overwhelm and distort the subject's thoughts to make it easier to feed messages into their mind. It did, however, have the advantage of not causing permanent damage to the brain, which both Han Xiao and Lin Weixian could appreciate. The depraved expression on Lin Weixian's face enraged Han Xiao. He felt like he was a pig at the slaughterhouse. Han Xiao added 2 of his 4 unassigned points into intelligence. Underscore. You are being brainwashed, low level. Your INT 7. Your resistance 3. Brainwash failed. Han Xiao's discomfort immediately eased. At the end of the 12 hours, Han Xiao's entire body was aching, and his eyes were completely dried out. Gila returned on schedule. The boss had assigned her the task of brainwashing Han Xiao, so she had to ensure that everything went smoothly. She undid Han Xiao's shackles, revealing bruises on his limbs. Although Han Xiao was still hurting, he continued to look at the screen blankly in order to act the part. Gila suddenly bent forward, and her face came to within 2 inches of his. Her moist breath fell upon his lips, but Han Xiao was far too concerned with his predicament to be distracted. Perfume filled up his nostrils, tickling him, and it took great effort on his part to resist the urge to sneeze. "Who are you?" asked Hila in a soft, hypnotic voice. Han Xiao decided to twitch his face instead of replying. Although Han Xiao had never been a good actor, it wasn't too hard to act like an idiot. Suddenly, Hila began to whisper into his ear. As her hair tickled Han Xiao's throat, two snowy mountains came into his view, through the window of her collar. He steeled his heart with a prayer. Between the mountains is a valley, empty like the void. Atop the sea stands an island, straight as a tree. I, who have seen over 100 gourds, will not fall for your bait. From today onward, your name is Zero. The Germinal organization is your home, your country, and your everything. You will forever be loyal to the organization, and will forever strive to help the organization achieve its goals. You will neither hide anything from nor betray the organization. You will carry out your orders faithfully, and you will sacrifice yourself for the greater good when the time comes. Lin Weixian broke out in manic laughter. Your life belongs to the organization. You will do whatever you are ordered to do, he added. Who are you? Re-questioned Hila. This time, Han Xiao knew that he had to reply. However, he did not reply immediately. Hila shot a frown towards Lin Weixian. I followed the procedure. It's not my fault. Suddenly, Han Xiao began to speak. I am Zero. Lin Weixian's eyes lit up. Valkyrie strengthened Zero's learning ability. However, as a side effect, it impaired his speech. Hila thought back to Zero's earlier behavior. He had indeed responded slowly to his surroundings. Seems like the experiment was not perfect after all. You're wrong. This is perfection. He does not need emotions. Take him to recover. I will report to the boss. I'm safe now. Han Xiao could finally relax. He had come up with the idea of acting slow, to lower their guard during the procedure. Although I didn't transmigrate to an ideal location, at least it's not so bad time-wise. The Valkyrie experiment was the prototype of a later super soldier project that implemented microchips into test subjects in order to ensure loyalty. Transmigrating to then would have been way worse. They would have been able to blow him up anytime. At least Lady Luck is smiling upon me in one regard. Hila made a call through an encrypted line. Boss, the situation has stabilized. Is the brainwashing complete? The man's voice was hoarse. I oversaw the procedure. There was no issue. What arrangements do you have for Zero? The Valkyrie experiment's aim is to train soldiers, so train him. How is my sister doing? Don't forget the deal, the man warned. I gave you permission to visit her once every 2 months. Don't cross the line. Hila clenched her fists. The interior of the underground Valkyrie lab was almost entirely white. Guards constantly patrolled the grounds. After a night's rest, Han Xiao was brought to an isolated training field where Hila awaited. While he was not too sure of what arrangements the organization had for him, he was certain that they would value his learning ability, meaning he would definitely get the chance to level up his mechanic abilities. It was virtually impossible to escape from such a tightly guarded fortress. So Han Xiao had steeled himself for the long haul. Zero, you will undergo daily combat and shooting practice from today onward. Hila tossed a suit to him. Put it on. Han Xiao quickly wore it. As soon as he put the suit on, Hila attacked, launching a vicious kick at chest level. Bang! Too fast. Han Xiao was unable to react, and the kick cracked his ribs through armor. He staggered back over a dozen paces and clutched onto his chest, coughing. As expected of a superhuman, although she was obviously not going all out, she was still several times faster than an ordinary person. 30 seconds of rest, she stated blandly. Combat training was tough but straightforward. No words were exchanged between the pair. They continued like this for 2 hours, by the end of which Han Xiao was completely exhausted and covered in bruises. He also now suspected that Hila had masochistic tendencies. Are all Ice Queen types like this, he wondered. Hila, LV30, has taught you basic combat. Progress rate, 5%. Hila left wordlessly. A stout, burly man arrived to yank Han Xiao to the target practice field. I am your shooting trainer. And one of the vice managers of this base, Baltar, introduced the scary-looking man with a hideous knife scar across his forehead. He pushed a 73 wasp into Han Xiao's hands and said, There's 10 bullets. Hit the bullseye with all of them. Han Xiao frowned. How could a beginner, who had never touched a gun in real life, before hit the bullseye? Moreover, the target was a moving dummy 30 meters away. I'm no Olympic champion. Han Xiao shrugged his shoulders and raised the gun with his aching arms. Bang bang bang. After 10 shots, Han Xiao took a look at the scoreboard. As expected, he had failed. Suddenly, he felt a searing pain in his back. It was only with great restraint that he did not scream out. He turned around, only to see a frenzied Baltar licking blood off a black tactical knife. Continue. 1 miss, 1 cut. Let's see how much blood you will lose today. Han Xiao moved a hand across his back, and it returned bloody. Bastard, he cursed inwardly. One of the glass panels in the room was a one-way mirror. Hila and Lin Weixian were observing from the other side. Baltar is being too careless with my precious test subject. Might as well let me dissect him now, bemoaned Lin Weixian. Hila cast a plain look at Lin Weixian and replied, The organization will not approve of your request. Lin Weixian laughed coldly in response. I will have my way sooner or later. I created him. He is mine. Hila remained silent. Baltar, LV-15, has taught you basic shooting. Progress rate, 5%. Agent profession unlock rate, 1%. Han Xiao was cut again and again. The cuts themselves might not have been deep, but there were so many of them that his clothes were completely drenched in blood. Baltar watched the weakened Han Xiao with a grin. He reveled in the smell of fresh blood. Why are you not screaming? He asked. A good toy screams. Damn bastard. Han Xiao took a deep breath to compose himself. While he really felt like punching Baltar, he knew that he could not afford to act recklessly. It was similar in some sense to LOL. When you trash talk despite losing, you are only setting yourself up for a more spectacular fall. For now, all he could do was suck it up. Laugh while you can. Han Xiao gritted his teeth. After the blood-boiling training session, Han Xiao was brought to dip in a special restorative bath for 2 hours. Although it healed his wounds, the pain from the cuts still lingered. There was an unused machinery tuning room in the base. And as Han Xiao had demonstrated some talent with machines, he was arranged to reside there. In the room were materials, tools, and a vehicle bench that he was given free rein to use. There were also shelves of books lined against the wall. Although there was a surveillance camera in a corner of the room, Han Xiao paid no heed to it. He had expected to be monitored 24/7. In the present year 687, Aquamarine was still a relatively new planet in the grand scheme of things. The planet was in the midst of a transition towards a new era. Hence its technologies were still quite far behind for a sci-fi game, similar to that of Earth. Mechanic talents were split into 3 trees. Each talent tree had over 20 talents that were divided into the 5 levels of basic, intermediate, advanced, expert, and master. Talents formed the core of a character's class. Learning a class unlocks the first talent, and subsequent talents require potential points. There are 3 ways to obtain potential points: through leveling, special quests, or mastering a skill. Han Xiao decided to hold on to his 2 potential points. Talents were not yet a major concern for him. Many new players spent them as soon as they got them. But potential points actually became harder to come by in the later stages of the game. They were to be used wisely. Outside of training, Han Xiao was basically free to do whatever he could. And he spent all his time on machinery in order to accumulate as much experience as possible to escape this prison. Time went by quickly. Han Xiao continued to assemble and enhance machines to gain experience. And as he improved, his perfection rate in assembly consistently hit over 90%. This gave him a lot of bonus experience. Although assembling the same kind of machine too many times gradually decreased the experience gained, up to a point where it would not yield any experience at all. There was an armory in the base that was essentially a gold mine of machines, providing Han Xiao with all the resources he needed to gain experience through assembly. Han Xiao kept a low profile and continued to remain quiet and docile. Gradually, the organization also stopped monitoring him so closely. Although the organization had high hopes for him, he knew that standing out would only be disadvantageous. So he chose to accumulate experience instead of leveling up when he could. Very soon, the research team lost interest in him. The degree of skill that he displayed in assembly was easily attainable by trained logistics personnel, and he simply did not fulfill their expectations. They continued observing him for another month before writing him off as a failure. Instead of wasting more time on him, they chose to devote their efforts elsewhere and ceased the 24/7 surveillance. This allowed Han Xiao to relax a little, as the organization's attention gradually shifted away from him. Eventually, only Lin Weixian and Baltar continued to keep tabs on him. Although Lin Weixian's continued requests to dissect Han Xiao for research were still being rejected, Han Xiao knew that it was only a matter of time before they would be approved. There was not much time left for him. As for Baltar, Han Xiao had become the sole target of his affection. As recovery pills were readily available, and the researchers believed that torture could stimulate growth, Baltar was allowed to indulge in his sadistic ways. Han Xiao gradually grew numb to the pain. With nothing much to do and no one to converse to, Han Xiao channeled his focus and thoughts into studying machinery. He found solace in the sense of accomplishment that crafting brought him. One day, a number of armored guards came to the tuning room to move a large portion of Han Xiao's resources away. As Han Xiao watched them quietly, a person walked up to him. "You have let the organization down. From today onward, your resources will be cut by 80%. The person who spoke to Han Xiao was test subject number 1. "I heard that you are my predecessor. With so many resources, is all you can make garbage like this? You are a failure, and I have been chosen to replace you." For some reason, the sight of Han Xiao irked number 1. Han Xiao remained silent. The organization prioritized results. Since Han Xiao was not giving them results, he was being stripped of his privileges. They planned to devote their resources to grooming the more promising number 1. As the research lab did not have any maintenance personnel for machinery, Han Xiao still got to keep the tuning room for himself. He was now assigned to perform maintenance and repairs. TSK sad rats. A few guards who saw the pair conversed among themselves. Brainwashed lab rats. Fated to be sacrificed. I'd rather die than end up like that. Sure, they can hear us. It doesn't matter, does it? They've already been brainwashed anyway. To them, test subjects were less than animals. Han Xiao walked away silently. Half a year passed. In this period of time, Han Xiao managed to figure out the layout of the entire facility and the routines of the staff. The Valkyrie Laboratory, commanded by Gila, was an underground facility that comprised of 3 floors. Because it was a secret base, it wasn't built to be very big, and was concealed within an uninhabited forest. Its supplies were delivered by airdrop. A total of 60 armored guards patrolled the facility. Every now and then, the organization would send a batch of test subjects who had had their memories wiped here for experimentation. Although there were a dozen so other Valkyrie laboratories, this base was the main one. After Han Xiao and number 1, the Germinal organization had managed to produce another 76 successful test subjects. While most of them had already been transferred to other facilities, number 1 and 9 other exceptional test subjects were chosen to form a squad, and they were still awaiting orders here. Han Xiao had grown accustomed to his life here. Aside from training, he spent all his time working with machines in the tuning room. The room had become a haven of sorts for him. The guards gradually began to ignore his presence, and when he passed by, they would simply gloss over him, as though he were invisible. This was extremely advantageous for Han Xiao, who was tirelessly gaining as much experience as he could. He also tried to memorize as many blueprints as he could. The experience that assembly and enhancement rewarded were separate. When Han Xiao could no longer gain experience from assembling a certain machine, he would proceed to work on enhancing it. He was always careful to revert the machinery back to its original state after enhancing, so as to keep his abilities a secret. After many hours of training, Han Xiao also managed to master the 2 skills of basic combat and basic shooting, and unexpectedly unlocked a passive ability called Grinder, which gave him plus 100 health. He also unlocked the subclass of Agent, and was now at a character level of 4. After his continued efforts, Basic Assembly and Basic Enhancement reached LV4, while Basic Combat and Basic Shooting reached LV2. Mechanics required substantial amounts of resources and currency for growth, And while this would normally be a limitation to the class, Han Xiao had access to free materials from the organization. He had used up almost 90% of the machines in the armory, accumulating a total of 600 experience. Without monsters or missions, only mechanics could earn so much experience in such a short amount of time. Give Lin Weixian the green light. He has asked repeatedly. He may dissect Zero, ordered the boss over the line. Hila frowned. You rejected him repeatedly. The organization has devoted so much resources to him already. We must gain something in return, said the boss plainly. The only worth that trash has is in being recycled. That is Zero's fate. Hila bit her lip. Understood. What are the results of number 1 and his team's training? Continued the boss. Very promising. I see potential in them. Very good. Send them to the Night Owl base for training. I have already sent the Night Owl squad to receive them. They will arrive in 2 or 3 days. That's the day I visit my sister. You don't need to follow them. All right. Ha! Cried out Hila as her bullet-like fist connected onto Han Xiao's chest. Han Xiao endured the pain of the blow to grab Hila by her collar. With a mighty twist, he threw Hila over his shoulder. However, it was ineffective. Hila effortlessly nullified the shoulder throw by performing a flip. Han Xiao paused to rub his chest. Is that all that you are capable of? Hila was visibly upset. Han Xiao remained silent. He had expected the organization to have given up on him with what little progress he had shown. But for the past 6 months, Hila had dutifully trained with him every single day. For some reason, though, she was going especially hard on him today. Although Hila was the commander of this base, she did not have much work to do. Training Han Xiao was actually one of the few things that she had to look forward to. When she had learnt of the boss's intention to hand him to Lin Weixian, it had upset her. Although they had never actually conversed before, it was 6 months of accompaniment regardless. A person could even develop feelings for an object if he or she spent that much time with it. Perhaps, due to having grown used to seeing Han Xiao every day, Hila was a bit reluctant to hand him over. How many times has it been, she wondered. All those people, all those faces. The organization's cruel methods had not only caused her to lose many of her friends, she had also lost her sister. The reason she had pushed Han Xiao harder today was to try and stimulate him. She had hoped to be able to draw out any latent talent in him. However, it had clearly been too much to ask for. The boss has approved of Lin Weixian's request to dissect you. She sighed. Strictly speaking, this was the first time she had ever spoken of anything outside of training to Han Xiao. Han Xiao's eyes flashed. Finally, although Han Xiao had been anticipating this from the moment he decided to lie low, he did not regret doing so. His background made it impossible for him to rise up through the ranks, which meant that he would only be able to continue on as a henchman. Either way, Han Xiao did not wish to work for the organization. Suddenly, Han Xiao noticed a photograph on the ground. It seemed to have fallen out of Hila's pocket during their fight. Han Xiao bent down to pick it up. It was a group photo set in front of a vast, blue sea that was basking under a setting sun. 2 girls stood side by side in the center. One of them was Hila, who was smiling radiantly. The other girl had snow-white hair, and seemed to resemble Hila somewhat. She looked both clever and gentle. Hila's face changed upon realizing that she had dropped the photo. She immediately bent down to snatch for it. When she saw that it was undamaged, she let out a sigh of relief. As she pocketed it, she took a final, probing look at Han Xiao before turning around to leave. The interface suddenly lit up with a message. You have initiated a D-class quest. Night Owl plans. Accept/decline. Han Xiao's eyes lit up. My first mission in 6 months. Accept. Underscore 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 underscore. Quest synopsis. The dark and blood-stained advent of the Germinal organization has always been a great mystery to the 6 nations of planet Aquamarine. Hila has a secret past that no one knows about. Where do her loyalties truly lie? You now hold one of the clues to this mystery. Will you seek to uncover the truth? You may choose to pass this clue on to someone else for a small reward. The quest had obviously been initiated by the photo. Han Xiao knew who the white-haired girl was. She was none other than Hila's younger sister Aurora. While the sisters both possessed supernatural powers, their powers were of two extremes. Aurora's blood possessed mysterious healing properties that could extend life, or even bring back the dead. She had been brainwashed, and was now being controlled by the Germinal. Not only were they taking advantage of her powers, they were also using her as leverage to make Gila do their bidding. Gila only cared for one person, and that was Aurora. The war between the 6 countries and the Germinal organization reached a climax at the conclusion of version 1.0. As a last resort, the Germinal organization used Aurora's flesh and blood to create an endless supply of miracle drugs that won them the war. Gila, who had been at the front lines at the time, only learnt of what had happened a few months later. Losing her sister tore her apart, and the Germinal organization took advantage of her moment of weakness to capture and imprison her. After her escape, she became cold-blooded and ruthless, going so far as to sacrifice countless of lives in order to awaken her latent powers. She turned to the dark side and stopped at nothing to gain power, eventually coming to be known as the Goddess of Death, whose very name spread fear throughout the Shattered Belt. Although the present Gila was cold, compared to the future Goddess of Death, who wielded the power to wipe out entire civilizations, she was a billion times nicer. If he had the chance, Xiao would definitely do his best to alter her tragic fate, not out of pity, but to prevent her from destroying his fleet of spaceships. However, he was still far too weak to do anything. Escaping the base was his primary goal. Xiao knew from Gila's routine the past 6 months that she would leave the lab in 2 days. That would be the perfect chance. Xiao returned to the tuning room and summoned the interface. He currently possessed 2 subclasses and 1 main class: Civilian, Agent and Mechanic Novice. Of the 5 main classes, Mechanics were weaker in the early stages of the game. They were also more intended to be a support class early on. In version 3.0, however, they would receive new talents that greatly buffed their combat capabilities to become one of the more popular classes. In the later stages of the game, a high-level mechanic was akin to an entire galactic fleet. Mechanics were well known for having many skills. Each blueprint itself could be seen as a skill, and since there were thousands of blueprints of machines, mechanics could be played in any number of ways. The slew of skills at their disposal made them adept at all sorts of tactics and warfare. Nevertheless, they had a glaring weakness: they needed more experience than other classes to level up. Xiao contemplated for a moment before dumping all the experience he could into mechanic, initiating a leveling frenzy. Engineer Novice has been raised to LV3, plus 10 energy, plus 1 INT, plus 1 Yendi, plus 2 unassigned attribute points, plus 1 potential point. Engineer Novice has been raised to LV10 max, plus 30 energy, plus 1 INT, plus 1 Yendi, plus 2 unassigned attribute points, plus 1 potential point. It took 130,000 experience to level LV2 Mechanic Novice to LV10. As a result, Xiao gained 8 endurance, 8 intelligence, 100 energy, 16 attribute points, 8 potential points, and was now LV12. It was usually more cost-effective to raise the level of the main class first, as it gave more energy. As Xiao did not meet the requirement for class advancement yet, he could not level mechanic up any further. Most classes had a starting level cap of LV10 that could only be exceeded after performing an advancement. Xiao continued to use 80,000 experience to level up Agent to LV9. He gained plus 12 strength, plus 9 dexterity, plus 3 charm, 9 potential points, and 9 points of unassigned stats from this, and hit LV20. While a character could have any number of classes, LV20 was the maximum character level before completing the special advancement mission. In the game, the maximum level was usually raised every major update. In version 1.0, it was LV60. Galaxy had hundreds of classes, and this gave players unlimited combinations to play around with. It made it common for a character to have individualized skill sets. As there was no fixed strategy in particular, each and every character could be skilled uniquely. This was one of the game's strong points. Xiao discovered an anomaly. His interface did not display a maximum level. This could mean that he was allowed to exceed the limits of a regular character. The gameplay of version 1.0 and version 2.0 was mostly based around the beginner planets. Although the stronger civilizations in the universe were already implemented from the start, players were unable to interact with them. Han Xiao wondered if his NPC status would have any impact on this. LV20 Advancement Mission. Learn an advanced mechanic skill. As one of the requirements to learning an advanced mechanic skill was to gain advanced knowledge, Han Xiao had no way to proceed with the advancement. He used another 150,000 experience to raise basic assembly and basic enhancement to their LV10 each, thereby gaining 2 potential points. He then used 10,000 experience to raise the level of his machinery affinity, novice, to LV3. After some calculations, Han Xiao proceeded to use 60,000 experience to reach LV6 in both basic combat and basic shooting, and this unlocked grappling and precise aim. He intended to use the remaining 170,000 experience to do some blueprint gambling. Blueprints were an important feature of the mechanic class. The first method of obtaining them would be through leveling talents. The second method would be through completing missions. Some missions rewarded blueprints. The third way through perform reverse engineering, done by disassembling machinery. However, on top of certain conditions and requirements, this method expended experience points. The fourth way, and the most important one, was through combining talents. This method also expended experience points. As there were 60 talents, and the same type of combination could yield different kinds of blueprints, the possibilities were endless. Some blueprints even had hidden prerequisites, making it hard to determine exactly how many blueprints could be derived from a certain combination. The experience needed to perform talent combination also increased with each attempt, and if the player received the same blueprint again, the experience expended would not be compensated. This is why talent combination was widely known as blueprint gambling. As useful as it was, it did consume a lot of experience. Back to before he had transmigrated, players had discovered and researched thousands of combinations, and Han Xiao was familiar with many of them. As a mechanic, he would be able to overcome the early weaknesses of the class, as there were a few rare blueprints of godly equipment that could be crafted by a novice engineer. Besides the 4 methods of obtaining blueprints above, there was also a lesser-used method known as free creation, where players were allowed to freely create machines that they conceptualized. However, this method had an abysmal success rate. The success rate of free creation depends on various factors, such as the viability of the concept itself, the quality of the materials, the character's level in knowledge, certain abilities, tools used, and so on. Before Han Xiao transmigrated, players still had not managed to figure out the exact science behind it. It was simply too hard to succeed at this method, causing it to be largely viewed as a waste of time and effort. As Han Xiao had gained 19 potential points from leveling his classes, and 2 points from maxing 2 of his skills, he now had a total of 21 potential points. Han Xiao proceeded to pick out 2 books from the shelf before summoning the interface. Use 1 potential point to unlock the weaponry branch talent, basic mechanical engineering. Y/N. Use 1 potential point to unlock the weaponry branch talent, basic bioengineering. Y/N. Confirm. A large amount of information related to these 2 talents began to be transmitted into Han Xiao's brain, causing him some discomfort. This continued for 10 minutes. When he was done, he used another 2 potential points to raise them to LV2, increasing his degree of comprehension for them. Combining these 2 LV2 talents can yield 6 types of blueprints. Each combination will double the required experience for the next. The first combination requires 10,000 experience, so 170,000 experience will allow me to combine 4 times. I must get that blueprint in 4 tries. Han Xiao nervously proceeded to combine LV2 Basic Mechanical Engineering and LV2 Basic Bioengineering. Proceed with talent combination of LV2 Basic Mechanical Engineering and LV2 Basic Bioengineering. 10,000 experience will be used. Yes. Han Zhao's vision whirled momentarily as a new blueprint appeared before him. Success. Congratulations on discovering Sky Swallow gliders. Not this one. Han Zhao clenched his fists. Continue. 20,000 experience will be used. Success. Congratulations on discovering bionic limb. Damn it. This is the worst one. Again. 40,000 experience will be used. Success. Congratulations on discovering lightweight mechanical arm. This is it. Han Zhao slammed the table excitedly. Haha. Lightweight mechanical arm. This is what I was hoping for. Half a year of hard work almost went down the drain. Name Han Zhao. Race, human/carbon-based yellow. Model, NPC. Countdown to version 1.0 launch. 182 days 8 hours 23 minutes. Level, 20 can proceed with advancement. Main class, Engineer Novice. LV 10 tenths can proceed with advancement. Subclasses, Civilian LV 1. Agent LV 9, 0/25,000. Health, 320 of 320. Stamina, 434 of 434. Attributes, 21 STR, 17 DX, 22 YND, 15 INT, 1 MYS, 5 CHA, 1 LUK. Unassigned stats, 27. Energy, 120 LV3, LV 110. STR +1, DX +1, YND +1, max stamina +20, LV 250. STR +3, DX +2, YND +3, max stamina +50, LV 3 100. STR +3, DX +3, YND +5, max stamina +100. Energy rank, 48 to 55. Grade, F mortal. To the weakest superhuman, you are a slightly huge ant. Abilities, concentration, +10% to mastery and crafting speeds. Lesser willpower, +3 focus. Grinder +100 health. Skills, mechanic, novice mechanic affinity, LV 3. Basic maintenance, LV 10 max. Basic enhancement, LV 10 max. Blueprint, Cloud Sparrow glider, LV 10/5000. Blueprint, bionic limb, LV 10/2000. Blueprint, lightweight mechanical arm, LV 10/10,000. Agent, basic combat, LV 6, 0/16,000. +6% damage when unarmed. Basic shooting, LV 6, 0/16,000. +6% accuracy. Grappling, LV 1, 0/3,000. +3% parry. +2% damage when unarmed. Precise aim, LV 1, 0/3,000. +3% accuracy. +2% range damage. Potential points 17. Class talents. Arms. Basic assembly LV 10/1. Basic mechanical engineering LV 20/1. Basic bioengineering LV 20/1. 17 talents not learnt. Energy, 20 talents not learnt. Control, 20 talents not learnt. Influence 0. Legend 0. Equipment none. In one shot, Han Zhao was able to reach LV 20 and significantly boost his combat ability. He spent 5 of his 27 unassigned attribute points to raise his intelligence to 20, fulfilling the prerequisite to craft the lightweight mechanical arm. Now he had one thing left to do. Suit up. Han Zhao grinned as he looked at the spare parts scattered all across the floor. I will show you what raising a tiger's cub means. The Valkyrie lab was hidden underneath an abandoned farm situated within an extremely large forest. The farm itself was enclosed by a tall electrical fence. A Black Harrier helicopter descended on the abandoned farm. 6 fully equipped agents dressed in black emerged from the aircraft. I am the captain of Night Owl Squad 3 Silverblade. I've come under orders to transport the Valkyrie squad, introduced the stony-faced captain. Stop wasting my time, replied an irritated Gila as she fixed her tousled hair. There are vehicles in the hangar. I'll take the helicopter. Number 1, who had been chosen to lead the Valkyrie squad, stepped forward. Test subject number 1 greets officer. Follow us. Yes, sir. As Gila hopped on the helicopter, she frowned. Strange. It feels like I've forgotten something. Machinery tuning room. Han Xiao was almost done with crafting the lightweight mecha arm. It had proven harder to craft than expected. In the game, blueprint crafting was guided. The player simply needed to input the materials and follow a few simplified steps. Now, however, Han Xiao had to do everything manually. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing though, as it did give him the freedom to make small modifications. Although the organization had taken away most of Han Xiao resources, there was still enough left for him to work with. He had primarily used manganese, a tough alloy well suited for making weapons and armor. While the design of the lightweight mecha arm was very basic, it would have to suffice. Han Xiao put down the wrench in his hand. The lightweight mecha arm was now complete. Lightweight mecha arm left. Quality average. Basic stats. Damage, 3558. Defense, 1317. Power level, 38. Durability, 270 of 270. Equip requirement, 25 STR. Stat bonus, -3 speed. Length, 0.51 m. Weight, 14.7 kilograms. Additional bonus, plus 10 STR. Han Xiao gained 3,000 experience points from crafting the arm. Crafting generally rewarded more experience than assembly or enhancement. Han Xiao currently had 21 STR, so he needed to spend another 4 attribute points to equip the mecha arm. After crafting the mecha arm, Han Xiao crafted a 73 wasp and enhanced it to 38 to 47 damage. He also forged a 10 damage carbide tactical knife. He hid the lightweight mecha arm and the enhanced 73 wasp before heading out to the canteen. The canteen was like a recreation room of sorts for the staff in the facility. They would come here to relax and while away the time. Han Xiao had learned a lot of information from eavesdropping on their conversations. Groups of guards were chatting nosily. I want to go outside too. Being confined for so long is getting on my nerves. Well, he is an officer. Her status is much higher than ours. Man, I'd do anything to spend a night with her. Hey, watch your mouth. Do you know why she's an officer? Because she's a superhuman. Of course she is. Han Xiao rejoiced at the confirmation of Heila's absence. Looks like today is the day, he murmured to himself. Han Xiao got up and headed to basement 3. His target was the surveillance room. There were 2 guards stationed outside the surveillance room. Before entering the corridor, Han Xiao slapped a piece of half-chewed bread onto the surveillance camera. He had learnt that the guards did not take their shifts seriously, and true enough, nothing happened even after a while. After composing himself, Han Xiao entered the corridor and approached the 2 guards. No unauthorized personnel, warned the first guard. It's 0. Just shoo him away, laughed the second. The first guard nodded. He was about to push Han Xiao away when suddenly, Han Xiao grabbed hold of his wrist and stabbed the second guard in the chin with a knife. The knife pierced all the way into the guard's brain. Han Xiao then immediately maneuvered around the first guard to perform a chokehold on him. Crack! Han Xiao had dispatched of both guards in an instant. You have dealt a fatal blow. You have dealt a fatal blow. -162. -171. You have killed a guard of the Germinal organization, gaining 360 experience. You have killed a guard of the Germinal organization, gaining 360 experience. Han Xiao carefully placed the guard on the ground before checking their stats. LV7 agent. 10 STR, 15 end. 150 health. You have acquired 4 bullets. Han Xiao re-equipped the dagger before slowly pushing the door open. A jaw-dropping sight greeted him. 2 guards were pressed together in an extremely compromising position. The sound of the door opening had startled them, and they were staring at Han Xiao in horror. Spicy. Well, this is awkward. Should I just pretend like nothing happened and step out? Wondered Han Xiao. Han Xiao did not have anything in particular against any group of people. He respected people's hobbies and interests. These 2 men before him were simply 2 lonely hearts, who had had no way of releasing their pent-up frustrations. Over time, their common bond developed into something special. It's not your fault. It's Tokiomi's, I mean. It's just how things ended up. Although Han Xiao's mind was dulled with such thoughts, his body was quick to act. Reversing his grip on his knife, he rushed forward to attack the closer guard. The guard was unable to react in time. and as he fumbled to draw his gun, Han Xiao went in for the kill. Unfortunately, the second guard kicked him to safety. Han Xiao's surprise attack had failed, but he was not disheartened. Twirling the knife in his hand, he switched back to a standard grip and stabbed the second guard in his abdomen, followed by striking his neck with his free hand. The guard collapsed to the ground. Overwhelming force. You have 25 strength. The target has 10 strength. As you have over twice as much strength as the target, your attack dealt 50% more damage. The target has lost consciousness. 1 down. The other guard who had been kicked to safety rolled further away to create some space between him and Han Xiao before raising his gun to fire. Han Xiao immediately tackled him down and slammed his hand against the floor, causing him to release the gun in pain. It would have been disastrous for Han Xiao if he had managed to fire. Han Xiao proceeded to headbutt the guard on his nose, disorienting him, and circled around to strangle him from behind. Rear naked chokehold. The guard's face turned purple as he struggled to break free. You have performed a submission. You have 25 strength. Your target has 11 strength. Your target is unable to break free. The guard struggled for a few more seconds before fainting. That was close. It would have been easier if I were a pugilist, panted Han Xiao as he got up. The pugilist class was the most popular class in Galaxy for the simple reason that it was the coolest looking class. Their skills had the coolest names, such as Inferno Quake, Devil's Beam, or Starbreaker. Of course, many skills were not actually as powerful as their names suggested. But the point is that they sounded cool. Shouting out the skill's name, as you used it also always seemed to make it stronger. Although most players weren't thick-skinned enough to do so, Han Xiao enjoyed it. Pugilists were also a much simpler class to play. Basically, just keep on hitting the enemy. Compared to the most demanding class to play, the mechanic, the difference was night and day. Han Xiao used his knife to finish the 2 unconscious guards. He looted 4 magazines of bullets from them. He then moved the bodies of the other 2 guards into the room, cleaned up the bloodstains in the corridor, and smashed up all the security monitors. After confirming that he had not missed anything, Han Xiao emerged from the room with his usual blank expression on once more. Eliminating the surveillance room was important to Han Xiao's escape. It allowed him to move freely. Han Xiao returned to the second floor where a guard suddenly stopped him. Mr. Lin Weixian wants to see you. Han Xiao's eyes flashed. Lin Weixian was one of the few people in the base who possessed a security pass that could access the main gate. He was saving Han Xiao the trouble of looking for him. Han Xiao followed the guard to Lin Weixian's private laboratory. It was a dimly lit room. The walls were lined with shelves of specimen jars filled with organs, almost like the private collection of a homicidal murderer. The organization has finally let me have you. If I dissect you, I will be able to find out the difference between you and the other test subjects. After extracting all the valuable information your body has to offer, I will preserve your corpse as a specimen. You will be fondly remembered as the first test subject. Han Xiao remained silent in the dark. You there, secure him tightly and don't let him struggle. It'll ruin my experiment, ordered Lin Weixian. He then proceeded to turn around to retrieve his toolbox of oddly shaped surgical knives and scalpels. Before Han Xiao, how many had fallen prey to them? Suddenly, Lin Weixian heard a dull thud from behind. He turned around, only to discover that Han Xiao was standing right behind him. Before he could react, Lin Weixian felt a pain in his chest. Looking down blankly, he saw that a knife was stabbed directly into his heart. His eyes widened with shock as he dropped the surgical knife he was holding. He could see the motionless guard lying on the floor behind Han Xiao, as well as the coldness in Han Xiao's eyes. Right. This room is under surveillance. Han Xiao seemed to have read his mind. Give up. I've already cleaned the surveillance room. That tone. Is this really that dim-witted Zero? Lin Weixian shuddered as the color in his face drained quickly. Half a year. You've been faking it all along. Han Xiao nodded. How is that possible? You fooled everyone. Lin Weixian wondered aloud, incredulous. Nothing is impossible in this world. Han Xiao twisted the knife viciously. Lin Weixian crumpled to the ground, wide-eyed in indignation and terror. "I am your creator." Han Xiao changed into the guard's uniform before leaving Lin Weixian's laboratory. It was likely that people knew he had been taken to Lin Weixian, so a disguise was necessary. There were usually 4 people in the base that he had to watch out for: Hila, number 1, Lin Weixian and Baltar. As Hila was not in, number 1 had left, and Lin Weixian was a non-factor now. Han Zhao's escape would proceed smoothly, as long as he did not encounter Baltar. The main gate to the base was a reinforced steel door almost 1 meter thick. Even if Han Xiao used all the explosives in the armory, it would still not be enough to blast it open. The only way to escape would be through unlocking it, and only 3 people possessed the security pass to do so. One of them was none other than Lin Weixian, and naturally, Han Xiao had already acquired his pass. However, as the main gate was heavily manned, and everyone knew exactly who possessed a pass, escaping was not that straightforward. If Han Xiao so much as appeared at the main gate, he would be surrounded by heavy fire in mere seconds. 1 bullet would do only 10 damage to him, but add them all up, and he would be lucky to last for even a second. Not a bad way to go, he thought, but I think I'll come up with a better idea. Han Zhao's plan was to cripple their communications in order to gain a few hours of time. This was the safest option. Currently, he was heading back to the tuning room to retrieve the mecha arm first. As the tuning room came into sight, Han Xiao was suddenly pushed from the side. To his horror, the person who had pushed him was none other than Baltar. "Why am I so unlucky?" he groaned inwardly. "Which squad are you from?" questioned Baltar. "Why have I never seen you before?" Han Xiao lowered his head and pushed his cap down. "I'm new here. I'm from Squad B. Why was I not informed of new guards?" "Hold on, your voice sounds familiar. Raise your head and show me your face." Han Xiao noticed that Baltar was slowly reaching for his handgun. 3 guards nearby had also sensed that something was amiss. What should I do now? If Han Xiao were exposed now, Baltar would definitely send guards to look for Lin Weixian. That would be disastrous. "This is a problem. I didn't want to have to resort to Plan B," muttered Han Xiao. "What did you say?" Suddenly, Han Xiao raised his head to reveal his face to Baltar. "I've always wanted to tell you this. Go see a shrink, psycho." 0. Han Xiao took advantage of his confusion and thrust his knife into Baltar's chest. Unfortunately, Baltar dodged on reflex, and Han Zhao's knife only grazed his chin. "Fire!" The 3 guards hastily reached out to draw their guns. Unfortunately, they were too close to Han Xiao, and Han Xiao managed to close in on them before they could fire. He sent a fist smashing into the nearest guard's face. -48. The punch sent the guard flying backwards into his comrades. Han Xiao gritted his teeth as he turned around to make a dash for the tuning room. Baltar's face darkened as he felt his chin. As he gave chase, he shouted into the transmitter on his collar, "All agents, listen up. Come to the tuning room on the 2nd floor at once. Test subject 0 has gone rogue." All the guards who heard the news were stunned. 0? Gone rogue? Are you sure? Wasn't he brainwashed? Is this a drill? Are you dumb? Didn't you hear the gunshots? Han Xiao became strangely calm under the assault of Baltar's gunfire. As his brain began to process all the variables and data in his surroundings, the world before him astonishingly changed. Han Zhao's surroundings began to be reduced to 3D lines, as though his mind were filtering out all the clutter, making everything look clear to him. Somehow, he had entered a state of mind in which all his brain's functions were heightened. 2.0 seconds to reach the tuning room. 3.7 seconds for Baltar to catch up. The 3 guards will not pose any threat for another 4.2 seconds. Roughly 30.0 seconds before reinforcements arrive. Han Xiao had been through countless battles before. Although they were all from his time in the game, it was still experience. And it was precisely experience that enabled him to tap into this special state. He started to run in an irregular pattern to dodge the bullets. "Interesting. The toy wants to resist," mused a frenzied Baltar. "You asked for it." Baltar was an elite agent with over 20 years of experience. No matter how terrifying Han Zhao's learning capability was, he had essentially trained for only 6 months. To him, the outcome was already decided. As soon as Han Xiao neared the tuning room, He jumped inside and locked the door. Baltar burst out in maniacal laughter as he paused to reload his gun. Hiding in a room? You have sealed your fate. Suddenly, the door was blasted into smithereens by what appeared to be a gigantic mecha arm that appeared out of nowhere. It followed through to smash into Baltar's chest. -95. Baltar was sent flying into the wall. 4 or 5 of his ribs were broken by the force of the impact. As he got up, he coughed a mouthful of blood and looked at the newly emerged Han Xiao in disbelief. What the hell is that? Baltar stared in shock at the gigantic mecha arm that was enshrouded by the black smoke it was pumping out. The 3 guards raised their guns to fire, but Han Xiao was a step quicker. With his right hand, he drew his enhanced 73 Wasp and fired 2 consecutive shots. With the accuracy bonus provided from his skills and DX, Han Xiao's current shooting abilities were extremely frightening. Each bullet hit either guard squarely in the throat. The 3rd guard opened fire, but Han Xiao simply raised the mecha arm. Clank. The bullet deflected. Lightweight mechanical arm left has lost 8 durability. Han Xiao fired another shot. The guard collapsed to his knees with an expression of disbelief. The corridor quietened down. Han Xiao and Baltar faced each other off. The nearest guard will take another 30 seconds to arrive, calculated Han Xiao. Han Xiao flexed his mecha arm tauntingly. I really feel like crushing your throat with my bare hands to thank you for all 420 cuts. Baltar furiously spat out some blood and laughed coldly as he unsheathed a dagger that had been concealed within his boots. That was quite a punch, but don't think that you can defeat me with a piece of junk like that. We'll see. I can kill you 10 times in 30 seconds, howled Baltar as he suddenly pounced forward. Han Xiao charged forward to meet him. Sparks flew as Baltar's knife clashed with Han Xiao's mecha arm. In the moment that they passed each other, Baltar bent down and aimed a kick at Han Xiao's knee with his foot. To trip the enemy from behind was an extremely effective tactic that Han Xiao had learnt from Hila. And unfortunately for Baltar, Han Xiao had anticipated the move. Seemingly with superhuman reflexes, Han Xiao swung the entire mecha arm back to smash into Baltar's foot. Baltar's foot was fractured by the blow. He crumpled to the ground. -87. The mechanical arm had a power level of 38. Added onto Han Xiao's own power level, the might of blow was already at the level of an E-grade superhuman. It had essentially doubled Han Xiao's damage. Han Xiao estimated Baltar to have a max HP of 300. Coupled with that destructive blow from earlier on, Han Xiao knew that he was probably at half health already. Baltar was indeed extremely weakened. However, he endured the pain and continued to attack. Unfortunately, his actions had grown dull, and Han Xiao easily caught his arm. Impossible. How could I? You. Baltar howled indignantly as he struggled to break free from the grip of the mecha arm. Suddenly, the world before him darkened as Han Xiao wrapped the mecha arm around his head and slammed him into the wall. Splat. Baltar was no more. Han Xiao dragged the already unrecognizable Baltar against the wall. Sorry, I lied. I didn't crush your throat. Why don't you get up so I can do it properly? Baltar did not reply, not that he could. You have killed Baltar, Vice Commander of the Valkyrie Lab, gaining 1,500 experience. Team A and Team B arrived at the gruesome scene on the 2nd floor. Vice Commander Baltar has been killed. What exactly happened here? Where's the enemy? Why is the surveillance room not responding? Inform Professor Lin Weixian immediately. Team C has discovered Professor Lin Weixian's body. Oh my god. All the guards gasped in fear. Was all of this really done by Zero alone? All the commanders were either out or dead, and they realized that there was no one left to give them orders. Wasn't he brainwashed already? Has he been planning this from the very start? The thought of it sent chills down their spines. Han Xiao could have taken their lives anytime he wanted. Don't panic. There's only one enemy. Proceed with a sweep of the facility. Fire at will. Team A will head to the armory. Team B, check out the surveillance room. Team C, go protect the laboratory. Team D, fortify the main gate. If Zero wants to escape, he'll have to go there. Now go. The Team A leader rose up to the occasion to give the orders. There were a total of 60 guards in the base grouped into 4 teams. Usually they were scattered, but this was an emergency. Unfortunately, Han Xiao was reading them like a book. Bang! A loud crash came from above, and the entire facility started to tremble. "What's going on?" asked the panicked team leader through his intercom. The sound of gunfire intermixed with panic yelling could be heard from the other end. "Team C has encountered the enemy in the lab." I repeat, Team C has encountered the enemy in the lab. Damn it! Zero set the lab on fire with a grenade. Where did he get the grenade from? The Team A leader was both enraged and horrified. His team had been standing guard outside the armory, but they had seen no one the entire time. "Send reinforcements quickly." "Which team is nearest?" "Team B is also at basement 3. The surveillance room has been wiped." "We're coming over right now." In basement 3, Han Xiao was hiding behind a corner, near the laboratory, while the fire raged within. He had used 3 hand grenades to set the lab on fire. Presently, there were a dozen guards from Team C that had suspected his presence and were advancing on him. After his battle with Baltar, Han Xiao had not headed for the main gate immediately. Instead, he had gone back down to basement 3, predicting that the guards would conduct a sweep of the facility from the top. Since it was no longer possible to sneak out as he had planned, Han Xiao had to change his tactics. Here in the laboratory at basement 3 was where all the Valkyrie data was stored, making it one of the key areas of the entire facility. He knew that setting it ablaze would cause the enemy to panic. "I still have 77 bullets and 5 custom grenades." Han Xiao reevaluated his inventory before peeking out from the corner for just an instant. Bullets were fired almost instantly. 12 guards, 3 N9 submachine guns, 973 Wasp handguns. I'm outclassed in firepower. Han Xiao's mind raced. It had been a minute since he set the laboratory on fire. Team B would arrive within 3 minutes, so he did not have much time left. Han Xiao knew all of this because he had been eavesdropping on a stolen intercom. Everything had happened so suddenly that the guards did not stop to consider this possibility. Han Xiao tossed out a grenade, causing the Team C guards to frantically jump for cover. Bang! Han Xiao used the smoke of the blast to sneak up onto the nearest guard. He gave him a mecha punch in the stomach, crippling him. "Shoot! Quickly! Shoot!" The other guards resumed shooting. Han Xiao yanked the poor guard up to use as a shield, and while this did not stop them from shooting, Han Xiao was able to close the distance, and he swiftly dispatched of another 3 guards. The remaining Team C guards scattered further back to pull apart from him. Han Xiao rolled and ducked as he closed in on them. The mecha arm's durability plummeted as bullets rained upon it. As Han Xiao evaded, he pulled out his handgun to return fire and scored 3 more kills. Suddenly, Han Xiao grimaced. "You have been shot in your right arm by a 73 Wasp. 17 damage taken. You have been inflicted with a gun wound. You are now bleeding light and will lose 1 HP every second for 15 seconds. Quickly bandage your wound. You have been shot in your left leg by an N9 SMG. 21 damage taken. You have been inflicted with a gun wound. You are now bleeding light and will lose 1 HP every second for 15 seconds. Quickly bandage your wound." If not for Baltar's training, he would definitely not be able to endure the pain. Han Xiao grit his teeth and threw out another grenade. Bang! The blast of the grenade caused Han Xiao's ears to ring in pain. He growled it off and proceeded with his onslaught. 1 minute later, Team C no longer existed. Han Xiao proceeded to bandage his wounds. He had lost 110 HP, more than a third of his max HP. A head-on assault is too costly. If only I had active skills. Team C, please respond. "What's the situation?" asked a guard over the intercom. Han Xiao pinched his throat and replied, "Cough, cough. Team C has suffered heavy losses. We have trapped the target inside the lab. The target has been shot. Please send reinforcements quickly." He then picked a submachine gun on the floor and casually sprayed it to create the illusion of a fierce battle. "Roger that. Please hold on. Team B is on the way." The guard did not doubt him at all. As Han Zhao's silent act was deeply ingrained in their minds, the idea that he could employ such tactics simply did not occur to them. Han Xiao proceeded to tie his 3 remaining hand grenades together and hung them on the door of the laboratory. He then hid behind a desk and loaded 3 submachine guns before firing his handgun multiple times to create the illusion of a crossfire. Footsteps approached, and the door was kicked open. Kaboom! As soon as the guards began to scream, Han Xiao rushed forward under the cover of the smoke and stuck 2 SMGs out of the door to open fire onto either side. Although vision was limited, Han Xiao could hear his shots landing, and when he had emptied his clip, the guards were no longer making any sound. The standard tactic to attack a room was for one person to kick the door, while the others hid on either side. As the guards in the base were not an elite squad, Han Xiao had known that they would employ this tactic. Although most of Team B had been lucky to survive the first round of grenades, they were unable to hide from the ensuing storm of bullets. His interface lit up like crazy. When the smoke cleared, Han Xiao saw that 3 guards remained. When they saw Han Xiao emerge from the room, their eyes grew wide with shock and fear. Is this really that dim-witted Zero? Han Xiao fired 3 consecutive shots to finish them off. What was that explosion? What's going on? Team A's leader shouted through the intercom. Han Xiao randomly picked up several scattered guns and fired them around casually. Team B is under ambush. We are engaged with the enemy in the experiment lab. Requesting assistance. Requesting assistance. Team A is coming right now. Something seemed off about the entire situation to him, but he could not figure out what. It was only when they reached basement 3 did the Team A leader finally realize what was bothering him, and he hurriedly ordered, "All guards, listen up. Zero might have infiltrated our comms. From now on, only take orders from me." It suddenly became apparent that Zero could be baiting them. After all, they hadn't heard of any other Team B member speaking since then. An unbelievable notion occurred to the Team A leader. Did Zero already wipe out both Team B and Team C? The notion caused him to shiver. If that was what had happened, it would mean that Zero had wiped out over half of the entire base's guards alone. Although he was unwilling to believe the idea, everything pointed to the fact that it indeed what had happened. Was Zero baiting them? Or was he trying to divide them while he made a run for the main gate? Team D, any abnormalities at the main gate? He asked through the intercom. None yet. The Team A leader sighed a breath of relief. He couldn't let Zero play them for a fool any longer. The situation at present was already extremely bad. He knew that hoping to kill Zero now was no longer realistic, and that he had to inform Hila ASAP. Team A, listen up. Return to the main gate right now. He decided it would be better to gather all the remaining people to fortify the main gate. There they could simply wait for reinforcements. This was the plan that appeared safest and surest to him. No matter what Zero's aim was, his fate would be sealed as long as he had nowhere to run. Team A retraced their steps to join up with Team D at the main gate. Teams B and C have most likely been eliminated. I'm going to call for reinforcements. Guard the exit. The Team A leader glanced at the present members. There were 31 of them. With 31 guns directed at the corridor, the second Zero appeared he would be torn to shreds. However, he suddenly realized that something was off. Hold on a second, shouldn't there only be 30 of us? Beep beep. The security panel flashed green as the gates suddenly opened. As the guards turned back to look, their jaws dropped. There was a man who was wearing the same uniform as them at the gate. The man began to whistle as he pushed his cap up with a finger to reveal his face. It was none other than Han Xiao. Bye-bye. He waved before abruptly pulling the manual lever and rolling out as the gate clamped down. The guards continued staring at the gate in disbelief. The veins on Team A's leader's temples bulged. When did Zero blend in with us? On the other side, Han Xiao rejoiced. I've finally escaped. Han Xiao stretched as he basked in the sunlight. The sight of the clear sky seemed to evaporate all his worries. It was roughly 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and Han Xiao could discern the silhouettes of several moons in the sky. Some of them were even close enough for their craters to be observed. Han Xiao took a deep breath. The crisp air was reinvigorating. Since the start, Han Xiao had never planned on taking all the guards head-on. Even though the guards had already been weakened, it might not even matter if he were able to kill them all since they could put the entire facility in lockdown at any point. Then his expression would not be that much different from the guards on the other side of the gate. After impersonating a Team B member to bait out Team A, Han Xiao had searched around for a relatively clean set of uniform to change into before concealing himself underneath the stairway. The guards had failed to notice him joining their ranks as they had been panicking. As such, Han Xiao was safely escorted to the entrance where, while they let their guard down, he had crept towards the gate, and the rest is now history. It had been a huge gamble. If anything had gone awry, he would have been torn to shreds by dozens of guns. Han Xiao would rather not have had to rely on this risky plan. However, Baltar had ruined his original plan, leaving him with no choice but to do so. It was a 50-50 all-in gamble, but there was no other choice. Han Xiao found himself in the middle of an abandoned farm. He noticed the trails of several vehicles, and traced them back to a garage where there were several all-terrain vehicles. Conveniently, their keys were all slotted in. Reinforcements might appear any moment. I need to leave ASAP. His escape was far from over. The organization definitely would not let him off so easily. Han Xiao threw his backpack into the passenger seat and got into the driver's seat. He ignited the engine and stepped on the gas pedal, intending to leave immediately. He ran the vehicle over the electric fence and headed into the forest. As Han Xiao knew nothing about the geography of the area, he would have to bet it all on following one direction. On the Black Harrier helicopter, Gila noticed her phone ringing. "Who?" she answered, irritated. "Commander Gila, there's a situation. Zero has gone rogue. He's killed Vice Commander Baltar, Professor Lin Weixian, and over 30 guards. He's also destroyed all the Valkyrie records in the base." The Team A leader was dispirited. They were definitely going to be punished for having been useless. That went without saying. However, he still had to swallow the bitter pill and contact the commander, as they were all trapped and needed someone to deactivate the lockdown. Gila frowned. "Are you kidding me? I personally conducted his brainwashing. How could he have survived the procedure? Has he been fooling even me?" she wondered. Gila immediately contacted the boss to relay the news. "Turn back right now and give chase," ordered the boss, enraged. "But my sister," Gila began to argue. "Shut up. You have no right to bargain with me." Gila glowered as she reluctantly ordered the pilot, "Return to base. Commander Gila, the helicopter needs to land to refuel first. Step on it." The Night Owl squad had also received the order to return. Number 1 was livid with rage at the guards' pitiful appearances. "There are 60 of you, and you can't even stop one person. Are there spies here?" He was unable to believe that Han Xiao could have escaped alone, not when it was impossible for himself. The guards were terrified by his accusation. No one dared to betray the organization, and for good reason. However, they were demoralized and unable to talk back. They did secretly hope that Han Xiao could escape, as it would help their case. "That's enough. The boss ordered us to hunt him down," interrupted Silver Blade coldly. "Hold on, the test subject team will follow." Number 1 was now rattled by Han Xiao's combat prowess, and this frustrated him. He felt like he needed to defeat Han Xiao in order to prove his worth to the organization. Night had fallen, and the night sky was decorated by numerous blue moons. Each planet and galaxy had a different kind of landscape and environment. In Han Xiao's previous life, there existed players who specialized in galactic tourism. They would sell albums of beautiful scenery and landscape from across the universe. Unfortunately, the thick canopy blocked out nearly all the moonlight, making it hard for Han Xiao to see, much less enjoy the night view. Han Xiao drove carefully, fearful of crashing into a tree. The darkness was extremely disadvantageous for him. Not only was he unable to move quickly, the sound of his engine could also expose his location. "It's really bad to drive at night. I'd better walk." He stopped the car and turned off the engine, deciding to abandon it. The silence in the forest began to set in, and he noticed that the shadows around him resembled ghostly figures. Underscore 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 underscore. You have obtained Combat Biscuit X5, Mineral Water X3. Han Xiao found some ration and water in the boot of the car. He stored them inside his bag and continued on foot. As he was unable to do anything about the trail that his car had left, he could only change his direction slightly to throw off any pursuers. The night was his cloak. Although Han Xiao was completely exhausted, and his stamina was almost depleted, he did not dare to stop for a break. Suddenly, Han Xiao heard the sound of engines coming from behind. He instantly sought for shelter behind a tree, before peeking out to see 3 sets of flickering headlights about 300 meters away. He was about to creep towards a safer location when suddenly, a gunshot pierced the night. Han Xiao's danger sense tingled, and he threw himself onto the ground. Something grazed past his shoulder. He turned to see that the bullet had narrowly missed him to pierce a tree 10 meters away. The 3 vehicles stopped, and 6 men alighted. They were none other than Night Owl Squad 3. The person who had fired was Silver Blade. 6 Cyclopes. Han Xiao was momentarily taken aback by their appearance. Those are night vision goggles. Han Xiao cursed his luck. You have been grazed by an SWP sniper rifle. 18 damage taken. Holy cow. Even though it was just a graze, it did as much damage as a direct shot from a handgun. You have entered combat and gained enemy information. Night Owl Agent. LV-15. Classes. LV-10 Agent, LV-5 Elite Agent. Stats. 18 STR, 15 DX, 25 YND, 10 INT, 3 MYS, 8 CHA, 1 LUK. Energy 0. Power level 40. Health 350. Abilities. Grinder. Plus 100 health. Pain tolerance. Combat strength not affected by injury. Skills. LV-4 Basic Combat. LV-5 Basic Shooting. LV-2 Precise Aim. LV-1 Sniper Leader. Equipment. Underscore 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 underscore. SWP Sniper Rifle, High Caliber. Grade Common. Damage, 70 to 88. Fire rate, 0.5/s. Ammo, 5 bullets per magazine. Power level 30. Prerequisites, LV-1 Sniper. Underscore 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 underscore. Thermal night vision goggles. Grade Common. 73 Wasp Handgun. Grade Common. Small caliber handgun. Damage, 28 to 35. Fire rate, 1.1/s. Ammo, 10 bullets per magazine. Power level 13. G-Grenade 3. Deals 50 to 80 damage to all targets in a 20-meter radius. Has a chance to do bonus damage. Power level 45. Jackson Assault Rifle. Grade Common. Assault Rifle. Damage, 36 to 42. Fire rate, manual 1.5/s. Fire rate, continuous 4/s. Maximum fire rate, burst 10/s 3 seconds. Ammo, 30 bullets per magazine. Power level, 33. Lightweight Kevlar Vest. Grade Common. Defense 10 to 12. Durability 50. Metal Alloy Dagger. Grade Common. Damage, 8 to 12. Length, 0.28 m. All 6 of them were elite agents and advanced class. Although they were lower level than Han Xiao, they still had high stats, and were much better equipped. Han Xiao's face darkened. Oh boy. All that Han Xiao had in his arsenal was the enhanced 73 Wasp handgun, an N9 Colt assault rifle, 15 magazines of ammo, and the lightweight mecha arm whose durability had been reduced to 130. He was essentially outmatched in terms of equipment. Bang! The sniper rifle was fired again. The bullet pierced through the tree he was hiding behind, narrowly missing him. Han Xiao groaned. While the enemy had night vision, he could only attempt to make out their position from the muzzle flashes. The sniper rifle was too powerful. With his current health, it would probably take only 3 shots to kill him. Han Xiao decided to put the 18 unassigned attribute points at his disposal to use. He added 14 points into Yendi for additional health and 4 into Street to bolster his STR advantage. Engaging in a shootout would only be disadvantageous, so even though close combat was risky, he had to take the chance. It was virtually impossible to run away since the enemy had night vision. The only way to make it out now was to kill them all. With the plus 10 bonus from the mechanical arm, on top of his 29 STR, Han Xiao had enough STR to ensure that his blows would proc overwhelming blows. With 36 points in Yendi, he now had a max HP of 460. He had instantly gained 140 HP from adding Yendi, which was crucial as Han Xiao was already low on health. His current HP was now close to 400, which was much more optimistic than before. The agents were fanning out to surround him, and Han Xiao noticed that they were not very closely coordinated. He estimated that it would take around 5 to 8 seconds for them to reach each other to help. In other words, Han Xiao had to be sure to finish off his target in this short amount of time. Having killed over 30 guards in the Valkyrie base, Han Xiao was now sitting on 116,000 experience points. He dumped all of it into his combat skills. Grappling has been raised to LV5, plus 7% counter, plus 10% damage barehanded. Basic combat has been raised to LV8, plus 8% damage barehanded. As basic combat has reached LV8 and submission has reached LV3, you may learn one of these 3 advanced skills. Special Ops Combat, Jiu-Jitsu, Iron Fist. Special Ops focused on explosiveness, assassination, and usage of tools. Jiu-Jitsu focused on grappling and submission. Iron Fist focused on strengthening the limbs and improving one's tolerance to taking damage. They were 3 very different styles of skills. What Han Xiao needed now was explosiveness, so he chose Special Ops Combat. You have learnt the advanced skill Special Ops Combat. Plus 6% crit rate, melee. Plus 4% damage barehanded. Han Xiao's melee damage was now increased by 15%, and his overall combat ability was also boosted considerably. Not only did he feel much stronger than before, he had a mysterious feeling that he had somehow acquired mastery over several fighting styles. It's a pity that I still don't have any active energy-based combat skills, thought Han Xiao. As mechanics had very few active skills in their earlier levels, they couldn't make much use of their energy. Han Xiao put on the lightweight mecha arm and crouched down. He took a few moments to regulate his breathing and optimize his oxygen flow, before suddenly springing forward and charging towards the agent closest to him on the flank. As soon as Han Xiao showed himself, the 6 agents opened fire. With the mecha arm as his shield, Han Xiao weaved through the trees to evade the rain of metal, while returning fire with the SMG in his other hand. The smell of gunpowder was overbearing. In 3 seconds, Han Xiao came within range of his target. He threw the SMG at the agent's gun hand as a distraction before swinging the mighty mecha arm at him. The agent raised his arms in reflex to block the blow, and endured the pain to draw his handgun. He aimed at Han Xiao's head and fired, but Han Xiao's DX was not just for show. With seemingly inhuman reflexes, Han Xiao clipped his arm over the agent's gun hand and tugged down to make him lose balance and buckle forward, before proceeding to ruthlessly smash his knee up into his groin. You have dealt a fatal blow. 2x critical hit. Your target is stunned for 2 seconds. Although the agent's expression was covered by his goggles, his painful scream was telling of the blow's effectiveness. Han Xiao took advantage of his temporary immobility to knee him again and again. Thud, thud, thud. -78. -81. -84. Sorry, brother. I know it must hurt a lot, but I'm not the one who decided not to include groin protection in your armor. The agent's HP plummeted, and Han Xiao finished him off by ripping into his throat with the mechanical arm. Before Han Xiao could celebrate his first kill, he felt a sharp pain in his back. He hurriedly dropped to the ground and dragged the agent's body over him as a shield while he crawled towards a tree for cover. You have been shot by an SWP sniper rifle. 68 damage taken. You have been shot by a high-caliber bullet. You are now bleeding medium. You will lose 3 HP every second for 15 seconds. The pain caused Han Xiao's face to pale. Just a single shot had taken out one whole chunk of his health bar. Unfortunately, he could not afford the time to bandage the wound. Damn it! The remaining 5 Night Owl agents were enraged that Han Xiao had killed their comrade. They rapidly closed in as they fired, cornering Han Xiao. Han Xiao quickly searched through the agent's body and put on his Kevlar vest. It would do well to block 1 or 2 shots. More importantly, however, he found 3 G-fragment grenades, one of which he immediately tossed out. Kaboom! The agents had to stop shooting as they frantically ducked for cover. Shoot more, assholes! Yelled Han Xiao furiously as he threw out a second grenade. causing the 5 agents to scramble back to the ground just as they were about to get up. After the blast, a third black object was flung out in the air, and the 5 agents subconsciously crouched down once more. However, when there was no explosion after 2 seconds had passed, they looked up to see that it was just a piece of rock. Meanwhile, Xiao was already charging towards the next agent, while firing his assault rifle wildly. Although Xiao managed to kill the agent who was seeking cover in the grass, he was now out of ammo. Xiao tossed the rifle away and threw the third grenade, buying himself some time to get in range. As he rammed into the third agent, knocking him down, a shot from Silver Blade's assault rifle clipped him in the calf. Xiao grimaced. The calf injury affected his movement speed, so Xiao decided to jump into the agent he had knocked down, causing them to tumble together out of the other agent's line of sight, where he made short work of him behind a tree. The agents simply stood no chance against him at close combat. But there were still 3 agents left. Although the odds were against him, and he had lost half of his HP, Xiao remained calm and spent some time to plan his next move. The enemy will probably... Meanwhile, Silver Blade was in complete disbelief. He had vastly underestimated the test subject, resulting in their number being halved. "Bomb him," he ordered. They threw grenades. Kaboom! "Is he dead?" "Stay cautious," replied Silver Blade as he and the other 2 agents slowly approached. When they reached the tree, they noticed that there was a burnt corpse on the ground. From what remained of its uniform, it appeared to have been Xiao. Finally, the 2 agents lowered their guns and relaxed. "No!" shouted Silver Blade all of a sudden. "Get down!" Before the 2 agents could react, a gunshot was fired. However, the gunshot was not intended for either of them. Instead, it was aimed at the corpse, or more precisely, the 3 grenades that were planted on it. As they were at point-blank range, the 2 agents were instantly engulfed by the blast and bombarded with shrapnel. "You have dealt 60 damage to the enemy. X8. You have killed a Night Owl agent. 1500 EXP gained. X2. Xiao rose up weakly from a patch of tall grass. He was heavily injured, bleeding, and almost out of stamina. Fatigue was setting in, and it was taking him all the willpower and focus that he could muster just to keep his eyes open. He had managed to survive the previous blast with 50 HP left by using the agent's corpse as a meat shield, after which he had dressed the corpse in his clothes and planted the grenades. Only Silver Blade had been vigilant enough to escape his trap. Xiao's limbs were shaking uncontrollably, and he couldn't even see properly due to the blood blurring his vision. Suddenly, a black figure darted towards him. "You asked for it," howled an enraged Silver Blade as he thrust a knife forward. The searchlight from a Black Harrier helicopter was illuminating the forest. Gila jumped down from the aircraft into what seemed like the aftermath of a fierce battle. The test subject squad had already arrived and were collecting blood samples. Number 1 was standing silently with clenched fists. The sight of the 6 agents' bodies stunned Gila for a few moments. As unbelievable as it seemed, Zero had eliminated Night Owl Squad 3 and escaped. She crouched down to examine the bodies, and was able to deduce that 1 had died by gunshot, 2 by explosion, and 3 in melee combat. Silver Blade's entire lower body had been pulverized, and there were shards of glass from his night vision goggles embedded in his eyes. He had clearly been done in by someone much more powerful than him. How could Zero have become so strong all of a sudden? Even if he had been hiding his true capabilities the entire time, Zero had only been training for at most half a year. It was simply inconceivable that he could take on the Night Owl Squad that comprised of veteran elite agents. Could he have awoken superpowers like I did? Gila regretted not having kept a closer eye on Xiao. Perhaps, she thought, she could have prevented all of this. Also, Zero had chosen to escape on the same day that she had happened to be away. Was it luck? Or had he planned it all? "Their equipment is missing, but we managed to find this," reported one of the agents as he showed the mecha arm to Gila. The mecha arm was drenched in blood, and there was a knife sticking out of its engine. "Bring it back." One day later, a large number of Germinal personnel arrived at the Valkyrie base to salvage any remaining surveillance footage and gather clues. The boss himself also came. The boss of the Germinal organization wore a black coat black mask, black gloves. Well, he was essentially covered in black from head to toe, and looked like he had come right out of Detective Conan. Only 5 people in the entire organization had ever seen his face. "Where is Zero?" he asked plainly. "We failed to track him," answered number 1 through clenched teeth. "If I have more time." The boss abruptly raised a hand in dismissal. Number 1 immediately stopped blabbering. The boss was in an extremely bad mood. Just a few days ago, he had dismissed Zero as a piece of trash, and this piece of trash had managed to escape while taking out so many of his men. 30 armed guards killed, all the research destroyed, and 1 elite squad wiped. On top of that, he killed Lin Weixian and escaped? "Are you kidding me?" he yelled at his men. "I want to know when he turned and how he got so strong," a researcher hastily replied. "We have come up with a theory, after going through his records." "Go on." Zero's behavior and actions before and after the experiment are strikingly different. According to the original reports from his capture, Zero's original identity was Xiao Han, the 3rd son of the Alamera family's second in charge. This was shocking news even to the boss himself. The Alamera family were a powerful warring clan allied with the country of Theas. Test subjects captured for experimentation were usually criminals or stragglers. How did someone with such background end up in their hands? The son of the Alamera's second in charge? How? According to our investigations, Xiao Han was the most ungifted among his siblings. Not only was he unable to awaken any energy, he was extremely incapable at leadership and weak-minded, answered the researcher as he flipped through his report. Our agents stumbled across him in the wreckage of a battle. He had been following his elder brother Xiao Hai on a transport mission when they were ambushed by an enemy. Continue. At the time, Xiao Hai was in command of the team, and the assailants' true aim was not the goods that they were transporting, but he himself. He was the most promising of his siblings, and was more or less guaranteed to succeed his father's position. According to our intel, the ambush was an inside job. Someone within the family wanted to get rid of him. During the ambush, Xiao Hai forced Xiao Han to swap clothes with him, and he used him as bait. In the end, while Xiao Han was hit by a cannon, Xiao Hai managed to escape to safety. "Since when was our network that well-informed?" frowned the boss. Xiao Hai did not bother to hide the truth, including the fact that he used Xiao Han as bait. The circumstances of Xiao Han's death did not hurt Xiao Hai's standing in the family. At the time, the second in charge even said that Xiao Hai had done well. As you know, the Alamera family values power above all. A burden like Xiao Han meant nothing to them. Even his siblings did not mourn his death. Han Zhao's past existence was like a roadside flower that everyone trampled over without notice. The boss laughed coldly. The weak do indeed deserve no sympathy. Enough of his past. Tell me what happened during the 6 months. We think that the Valkyrie experiment triggered a change within his body. A change greater than we could have imagined. It did not just unlock his talent for machinery. What it did was enhance his intelligence. We think that he has been planning his escape from the very start. Are you saying that the brainwash did not work on him? Interrupted Gila. Yes, I'm afraid so. Gila frowned. The researcher continued. How is it possible for a subject with no memories to develop his own will? The only explanation seems to be that Valkyrie helped him to regain his memories. However, since he was never a gifted person to begin with, Valkyrie must have also awakened some kind of hidden strength within him. Are you sure? Asked the leader coldly. Not absolutely, admitted the researcher. It was simply conjecture after all. Who the hell could be sure? Number 1 couldn't help but butt in. Was he just luck? The boss instantly silenced him with a stare. Oh right. The guards also brought back this mecha arm that he used, added the researcher. Although the craftsmanship of the arm itself is not very refined, I must say that it is quite a revolutionary concept. It seems like this mecha arm played a huge part in his escape. The weapons development department would like to replicate this model for development. Finally, thought the boss, something good to hear. Funds are not an issue. I just want results. The researcher nodded, continuing. No matter what, Zero's cunning and talents make him a dangerous person. He has high research value. Whether dead or alive, obtaining his body will undoubtedly help us in perfecting Valkyrie. While the researchers were all terrified of Han Xiao, as he could have killed them any time he wanted, they were, after all, men of science. Number 1 frowned. From the moment that he was created, he knew that he had a predecessor. This fact alone caused him to identify Han Xiao as an enemy. However, just when he thought that he had surpassed Han Xiao, reality hit him like a truck. Before determining the exact factor behind the drug's effects, cease all experimentation. Round up all the test subjects once more for another round of brainwashing. I don't want another zero to appear, ordered the boss. Number 1's eyes widened in disbelief. He felt that his loyalty to the organization was being doubted. I wish to lead a team to pursue zero, he burst out. The boss looked at Number 1 as he contemplated. He did indeed have high expectations for the test subject squad. Can you do it? I will definitely succeed, declared Number 1. Fine. Bring Zero back, dead or alive. 7 days later, somewhere in a radiant glowing forest, a frail-looking man was still trying to find his way out of the seemingly endless woods. Han Xiao needed food and water desperately. His backpack was bulging, but only with equipment. 7 days ago, he had defeated Silver Blade with relative ease by sacrificing the mecha arm. Losing it was not that big of a deal though, as Han Xiao still had the blueprints, and could always craft another. Although the forest was not an ideal place for recovery, Han Xiao's high yindi gave him resistance to wound infection. Still, he did have to withstand the pain of digging out the bullets inside him. The pain from extracting the sniper bullet lodged in his shoulder blade, in particular, had been so excruciating that it had immobilized Han Xiao for almost an hour. At the very least, he was lucky to have not encountered any wild beasts, although he did catch a few hares. The wild beasts on planet Aquamarine were extremely ferocious, and some of them were even intelligent. In Galaxy, they occasionally attacked human cities. Some beasts, like the amphibious orca elephant, were so massive that conventional weaponry was completely ineffective against them. Although Han Xiao knew the geography of planet Aquamarine well, it wasn't really of much use to him when he did not know where exactly he was. Han Xiao would sleep on top of trees at night, and if the past 7 nights had taught him anything, it was that mosquitoes were the most detestable creatures in the world. Will I ever get out of this forest? As if in answer to his prayers, a wanderer's encampment soon appeared in Han Xiao's sights. Suddenly, Han Xiao's expression changed and he jumped backwards abruptly. In the same instant that he had reacted, a huge net sprung up from beneath the sand. It was embedded with shards of metal. The bastard dodged. A long-haired young man carrying a shotgun walked out from behind a tree. His clothes were ragged and patched with animal skin. Stand still, he shouted. The young man was most likely one of the residents from the encampment, and Han Xiao, not wishing to create unnecessary trouble, held his hands up above his head. I'm just a passerby. A passerby? Han Xiao's bulging backpack caught the young man's eye. What's in the bag? Take everything out. Han Xiao sighed. No wonder the trap was so big. It was precisely meant to catch people. Morals are always blurred in times of trouble. Most wanderers were surviving citizens of the old countries, who opted not to join the Six Nations. As life in the wild was harsh, killing and stealing might have been frowned upon. But they were inevitable occurrences. Are you deaf? I said, take everything out, yelled the long-haired young man, as he walked forward to hit Han Xiao on the forehead with the butt of his shotgun. Han Xiao was exasperated. The only contents in his backpack were guns, ammo, and equipment that belonged to the Germinal organization. How was he going to explain that? Do you not understand me? Want me to screw you up? The long-haired young man cocked the shotgun threateningly. Suddenly, Han Xiao threw an elbow into the chest of the unsuspecting young man, sending him flying back in shock. Han Xiao grabbed the shotgun from him out of midair. The young man landed heavily on the ground, and he clutched his chest in terror as he scrambled to crawl away. Han Xiao cut out some rope from the trap and tied the whimpering young man to a tree. When he examined the shotgun, he realized that its barrel was outright crooked and shook his head. At the very least, it implied that the young man had never killed before, and that he had only been acting. Nonetheless, the young man was so terrified that when he saw it in Han Xiao's hand, he panicked even more. Big brother, please spare me. Forgive me for not recognizing MT Tai. Han Xiao slapped him squarely on the face, reprimanding. So, you know that you were wrong. I was wrong. I was wrong, blurted the young man shamelessly. Why? The young man thought for a moment before carefully answering. I should have brought one more gun. Han Xiao burst into laughter. You're a funny one, eh? Please show me mercy, Mr. Saint. Just let me go as if you're passing wind, sobbed the young man with dripping tears. Get lost. I've never passed such a big wind before. Han Xiao raised the shotgun and struck the young man across his face to knock him out cold. At the end of the day, the young man was most likely a resident of the encampment, and Han Xiao still needed to obtain food and water from them. Count yourself lucky. Half an hour later, Han Xiao finally reached the encampment. His appearance seemed to unsettle the wanderers. Life in the wild was full of perils, and wanderers were often unwelcoming to outsiders. Their way of life was similar to that of the gypsies, and they were frequently on the go. There were pickup trucks lined up outside the tent. Most of them were rusty, and some didn't even have exteriors. Han Xiao noticed that there were only a few dozen tents, making this community a relatively small one. Nevertheless, it was a miniature society in its own, and Han Xiao located the camp's merchant, a bearded Westerner who conducted his business by his pickup truck. Outsider, the bearded man raised an eyebrow. Do you know the rules? He asked. What rules? Barter trading only. Well, that's just fine, thought Han Xiao, since I don't have a single penny. I want a map, 3 buckets of water, and 5 kilos of food. Bread or dried meat will do, said Han Xiao as he retrieved a handful of bullets from his bag and put them on the truck. I'll pay with this. Gunpowder. The bearded merchant's eyes flashed with greed. Gunpowder was extremely valuable among wanderers, as hunting was a key source of food. 150 bullets, stated the bearded merchant. Han Xiao's face darkened. Daylight robbery. The items he had asked for were basic necessities. There was no way that they could be worth so much. Han Xiao's bronze bullets were high-quality bullets that could easily go for $10 apiece. Yet the merchant was asking for 150 of them, equivalent to $1,500. Up to you, added the merchant nonchalantly as he turned his attention to his fingernails. As Han Xiao desperately needed food and water, he gave in to the merchant's demand. Sighing, he aligned 150 bullets on the back of the truck. Suddenly, the big bearded man waved a finger. 180. Han Xiao glared at him. Oh ho ho. Such scary eyes. Do you want to kill me or something? Quickly, people, come and see. This man wants to kill me. Dozens of wanderers gathered around in an instant. Some of them even came with sticks and bats. This is our territory. Are you trying to be funny, kid? Okay. 180 bullets. Fuck me. Han Xiao hastily threw out more bullets in case he jacked the price up further. The merchant laughed shrewdly and sent someone to fetch the goods. After confirming the items, Han Xiao raised a middle finger at the merchant before turning around. Suddenly the merchant spoke. Hey, are you planning to walk out of the forest? Why, you have a problem with that. I have an old pickup. Want it? Asked the bearded merchant nicely. Not as though I can afford your price. Han Xiao shot back. Oh, I think you can, said the merchant as he pointed towards Han Xiao's bag. You have so many bullets. You must have many guns too. Han Xiao's bag was indeed full of guns, high-quality ones at that. He had looted from the Night Owl squad. He even had the sniper rifle and some Kevlar vests. He could easily afford an old pickup. However, Han Xiao shook his head. A car would leave a trail. Han Xiao would rather not try racing a helicopter. Walking was safer. Furthermore, if the Germinal organization's agents discovered their guns here, it would be disastrous not only for Han Xiao, but for the wanderers here as well. In some sense, it would be dishonest of him to sell them. Although Han Xiao had recently killed a big number of people, it was not out of perverseness. It was to survive. The merchant, however, was not an easily dissuaded person. He was about to speak again when suddenly, a man's voice boomed out. Kai Luo, you're taking advantage of outsiders again. A well-built man clad in hunter's clothes patched with animal skins appeared behind the crowd. As he strode forward to the center of the crowd, everyone shifted to make way for him. The man seemed to command respect. The big bearded merchant groaned. Hu Xianjun, I just painstakingly closed a deal. Don't come and interfere. Hu Xianjun grabbed the bullets on the truck up and pushed them back into Han Xiao. The stuff you want isn't actually worth much. Treat it as a gift. Here, take these back. Han Xiao was stunned by the man's chivalry and stared at him in disbelief. The man was an extremely muscular Mongolian with white hair on the sides of his head, and his eyes were as sharp as an eagle. He looked very much the part of a righteous man, and Han Xiao instantly warmed up to him. Hey, what about me? Interrupted Kai Luo. Isn't it just some food? I'll give you more tomorrow, replied Hu Xianjun casually. Kai Luo was frustrated. It wasn't every day that a foreigner came by for him to make a quick buck. He who comes from afar is a guest. You look too frail to be traveling alone. Why not recuperate over at my house? Han Xiao hesitated. He did indeed need a proper place to recuperate. In any case, Hu Xianjun had given him a very good first impression, so he nodded. As Han Xiao followed Hu Xianjun, the crowd scattered. Kai Luo fumed, but there was nothing that he could do. He did not dare to offend Hu Xianjun. Hu Xianjun led Han Xiao to his tent. As he entered the tent, he shouted, "And we have a guest today. Cook more." "Okay," replied a woman's voice. Han Xiao followed behind Hu Xianjun into the tent, and was a woman who looked rather ordinary and wore a simple waist skirt. Han Xiao noticed that she was blind. "This is my wife," introduced Hu Xianjun with a smile. "Nice to meet you," greeted in as she faced the entrance. She then turned back to pick up crockery, dried meat, and wild vegetables, and arranged them inside a simple clay oven in the center of the tent. Han Xiao and Hu Xianjun sat down and chatted away. After a while, Han Xiao became certain that Hu Xianjun did not have any ulterior motives. He was simply an extremely nice person. "I noticed earlier that most of the people in your community are white. How did you end up with them?" asked Han Xiao. There were 4 races of humans on Aquamarine: black, white, yellow, and Shanu. There wasn't any special reason for it. It just happened to be a chaotic time. I met some travelers by chance and decided to stay with them, as in was sick at the time. Although we come from different countries and are of different races, we are all remnants of the old era and have all experienced the loss of our countries. There isn't a need for distinction. We are all human after all. Some of those who had lost their countries chose to join the Six Nations. Others opted to join the Germinal organization. The rest could only become wanderers. Wanderers made up 1/3 of the planet's population. Aquamarine used to have over 100 nations, but that all changed when an advanced civilization came into contact with the planet. The idea of advancing humanity and stepping out into space sparked a movement for sustainability, and the idea of unifying countries gained some popularity. While it was indeed far-fetched to think that that alone could change the face of the entire planet, there were people in power who supported the idea and conspired behind the scenes to make it happen. Long story short, after numerous wars, negotiations, and all kinds of peaceful and non-peaceful efforts, all the countries were united into the Six Nations in the span of a few decades. Many things that people had once thought to be irreplaceable were simply shoved aside by the unstoppable tides of change, and many lives were sacrificed in the process. Such as civilization. People are like the sediments in the river, destined to go with the flow. While maintaining the status quo is always easy, revolution always comes with pain and suffering. When comparing individual gain to societal improvement, it is natural for people to favor the former. Truly selfless people are rare creatures. Otherwise, selflessness would not be seen as a virtue. Statements such as, "See, there are still good people in the world," are sad to hear. Nevertheless, change had come too soon to Aquamarine. The Battle of Andria was the nail in the coffin. Sometimes, I think about the way we took our lives for granted. I miss how life was peaceful back then. Who would have thought that change could come so suddenly? I mean, even if the planet's resources do end up being depleted, wouldn't that be in a few hundred years from now? Why do we have to answer for something like that? Lamented Hu Xianjun. Han Xiao sighed empathetically. Who knows, perhaps it was inevitable. Societal strife was destined to reach a boiling point. Maybe short-term pain is better than long-term suffering. Han Xiao shrugged. The Battle of Andria set the post-unification landscape of the planet in stone. Andria was the name of a continent, once home to several nations. As the war developed, Andrea had for some reason became the proxy of the conflict. It was as though all the countries had agreed to settle things there once and for all, as though they were trying to contain the scale of damage inflicted onto the planet. However, billions of lives were lost as a result. By the time the war ended, all that remained of Andrea was a desolate land of scorched earth and withered trees. Its rivers were left blighted, and the once fertile lush landscape was no more. The Six Nations simply packed up and left as soon as the battle ended, ignoring the destruction that they had caused. Han Xiao noticed an old blister on Hu Xianjun's palm. "You used to be a soldier?" he asked. "Yes, for over 10 years. I thought that remnants like yourself would choose to join the germinal organization." Hu Xianjun shook his head. "My home country was peacefully annexed by Star Dragon. Soldiers like me didn't have any say. We simply follow the decision that our leaders made. I do detest the Six Nations, but the germinal organization is no better. They popped out of nowhere to take advantage of our hatred for the Six Nations. Sigh. I'm a simple man. All I want is to escape war. War is cruel." My eyes were blinded by a flash grenade. "My husband and I fled tirelessly before settling here. Even though life as a wanderer is not easy, it is better than war," and chimed in. As she finished speaking, the smell of meat filled up the tent, causing Han Zhao's mouth to water. "How do you cook without being able to see?" he asked, and puffed her cheeks. "Don't look down on me. I might be blind, but I can still smell, hear, and feel. It's not like I don't have any limbs." Hu Xianjun smiled. "She has a strong character. Won't even let me take care of her." "I don't want to be your baggage," responded An meekly, prompting Hu Xianjun to scratch his head in embarrassment. He hurriedly changed the subject. "Oh right, I'll let you take a look at my baby." Hu Xianjun opened a storage box beside him to retrieve an old-fashioned gun. "Let's see if you know your guns," he said proudly. Underscore 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 underscore. Bayonet musket, old era. Grade average. Base stats. Damage 38 to 40. Fire rate 0.9/s. Magazine capacity 20. Range 200 m range. Power output 25. Durability 5 of 300. Stat bonus +1 dexterity. Length 0.77 m. Weight 7.1 kilograms. Additional effects accurate. Remarks: this weapon has accompanied its master through countless battles. Underscore 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 underscore. It is a fine gun, praised Han Xiao. Even though it has been used for so long, you still keep it well polished. The barrel is perfect. Truly a well-made gun. This gun is my partner. He's been with me for close to 10 years. Laughed Hu Xianjun. It only looks new because I frequently oil it. The truth is that its workings have aged. It can't be used anymore. The pair continued to chat until the sky darkened, and An had finished cooking, and had cooked a gigantic pot of creamy soup, filled with tender meat and wild vegetables. Not only was it extremely fragrant and flavorful, it was also visually appetizing, and Han Xiao couldn't help but drool. Han Xiao gulped at the sight of the meat. He had had nothing good to eat for the past 7 days. His closeness with Hu Junxian was skyrocketing on the spot. +1. +1. +1. After dinner, Hu Xianjun asked Han Xiao to stay for the night. Han Xiao decided to stay since he did not intend to travel at night anyway. They laid a mattress for him and set up a partition. Your bag is too big. I'll put it outside, said An. I'll do it myself. Before bringing his bag out, Han Xiao dismantled all the guns in his backpack to take out their triggers. He wrapped them in some animal skin that he got from Hu Junxian and set the package in a corner. Han Xiao also loaded up his 73 Wasp and placed it under his pillow. Of course, he was not being weary of his warm hosts or anything like that. It was simply important always to be prepared and alert. As soon as Han Zhao's head hit the pillow, he instantly fell asleep. His snoring could be heard through the curtain. Hu Xianjun laughed as he shook his head. Looks like he's beat. Let's not disturb him. And nodded and proceeded to take the cutlery outside to wash. Uncle, I'm famished. Suddenly, a disheveled young man entered the tent. His entire face was covered in mud, and there was a swollen bump on his head. It was none other than the young man that Han Xiao had encountered this afternoon. He was Hu Xianjun's nephew, Hu Fei. "Where have you been all day? I didn't see you at all," questioned Hu Xianjun. I went out hunting," stammered Hu Fei. Hu Xianjun could tell that his nephew was lying. He pulled Hu Fei's ear and began to scold him in a strict but soft voice. "Are you up to your pranks again? I told you that I would fucking chop them off if you took that broken shotgun to scare people again. Didn't I?" Tears began to flow out of Hu Fei's eyes as he filled up with indignance and pain. "Your nephew not only got bullied today, he was even tied to a tree for the entire day. I'm so tired and hungry, uncle, give me a break," he thought. "Please, uncle, don't chop them off," he bawled. "Which leg do you want me to chop? Just don't chop off my balls. You and your dirty mind. Don't worry. I'll chop them off for you since that's what you want." Hu Xianjun was about to raise a hand to slap Hu Fei when he remembered that Han Xiao was sleeping. He let Hu Fei off with a warning. Noticing that there was someone else in the tent, Hu Fei peered beyond the partition to see who it was. When he saw Han Xiao, his jaw dropped. "Isn't that the devil from this afternoon? What are you looking at? Tonight you sleep outside," Hu Xianjun suddenly whispered from his side. Hu Fei gave a start and fell backwards. He quickly scrambled out of the tent on all fours, leaving Hu Xianjun bewildered. "Is my face that hideous? Why am I running away from my own home? This is the perfect chance to get my revenge," realized Hu Fei as he stopped in his tracks. He proceeded to turn back to return to the tent, instantly changed his mind at the thought of Han Zhao's scary face. Hu Fei, show some guts." As he began to formulate a plan, he recalled that there was a package in the tent that he had never seen before. It must be his. Hu Fei waited until midnight, when everyone had gone to bed. He tiptoed into his own house and picked up the package. What do we have here?" When Hu Fei unfolded the package, his eyes widened in disbelief. "Guns. High-quality guns. I can't take them all." Hu Fei picked out 273 wasps. "Forget it. Since my uncle is playing host to you, I'll only take 2 as compensation." He wrapped the remaining guns up and returned the package to its original position. "It's only 2 guns. He probably won't notice." Han Xiao woke up the next morning fully recovered. "Brother Han, you're awake?" greeted Hu Xianjun, who was doing his morning exercises outside the tent. Although Han Xiao was somewhat unwilling to bid farewell to the kind-hearted couple, he knew that he had to leave. "I am indebted to you. Unfortunately, I need to leave now. I will repay you in the future. I've made some pancakes. You can eat them while traveling," said An as she handed a small package over to Han Xiao. The warmth from the pancakes flowed into Han Zhao's hands, resonating with his heart. "I slept well last night. Thank you for everything." "Haha. Don't mention it. Just helping a brother in need," replied Hu Xianjun sincerely. Han Xiao went to gather his belongings. When he went to fetch the bundle of guns, he noticed that the leaf he had placed on it the night before had fallen off. "Someone has touched my stuff. That's not possible." Hu Xianjun was alarmed. "And then I didn't, hold on. Hu Fei, get your ass over here right now." Hu Fei, who had been eavesdropping from behind the tent, walked out. "You again?" Hu Fei averted his eyes to the ground. Hu Xianjun kicked his nephew in the butt. "Did you steal again? Hand it back right now." Hu Fei bit his lips and grudgingly took out a 73 wasp handgun from his clothes. "Brother Han, do as you deem fit. This kid deserves a beating." "It's okay. Everything is fine as long as I get the gun back. My guns will bring you misfortune." Han Xiao sighed a breath of relief. "May we be fated to meet again." "Farewell," bid Han Xiao. "Take care," nodded Hu Xianjun. Han Xiao picked up his backpack and departed. "I will never forget this kindness," he thought to himself. "Bastard's finally gone," rejoiced Hu Fei. He didn't realize that I stole 2 guns." He slipped to the back of the tent, where he had hidden the other handgun in a box. "Even if he comes back, I just have to deny that I have it. But why does this gun have no trigger?" The map that Han Xiao had obtained had been crudely drawn. However, Han Xiao was able to learn his current position from it, and that sufficed. He was currently in the country of Star Dragon, and by his estimations, it would take him just 3 more days to reach the main road. There he could hitch a ride to the city. In the afternoon, Han Xiao found a spot to eat and replenish his stamina. As he unpacked his guns to return them to his backpack, he suddenly discovered that something was amiss. There seems to be a missing gun. Han Xiao recounted to confirm his suspicions. He immediately dispelled any thoughts of lunch and hastily packed up to retrieve it. Number 1 and his men arrived at the encampment right after Han Xiao had left. They rounded up the wanderers and were holding them at gunpoint. Has anyone seen this man? Number 1 projected a holographic face in midair, using a device on his wrist. It was none other than Han Xiao. No, never seen him before. Everyone denied seeing him. They knew that the Germinal organization would not dare to do anything to them. Wanderers were a neutral faction, and both the Six Nations and the Germinal organization were always trying to win their support. Only one wanderer was trembling uncontrollably for some reason. Number 1 was in a foul mood, having been in pursuit of Han Xiao for 7 days before arriving at this encampment. If the people here had not seen Han Xiao, it meant that he had gone in the completely wrong direction. Withdraw, ordered Number 1. However, just as he was about to board the car, he noticed the shaking Hu Fei. Bring that kid here. Hu Fei was dragged to Number 1. Number 1 squinted at him and asked, "Do you know this person?" "No, I don't." Hu Fei shook his head repeatedly. Number 1 noticed an out-of-place outline in his clothes and ordered, "Search his body." Hu Fei was pressed to the ground and watched in horror as the 73 Wasp was taken from him. "This is one of our guns," exclaimed Number 1. He held the gun up to the crowd and shouted, "Zero has obviously been here. How dare you all try and lie? Do you want to die? Speak. Where has he gone?" The terrified wanderers began to turn their eyes to the person who had first spoken to Han Xiao, Kai Luo. Kai Luo was squatting in the corner like an ostrich. "What are you guys looking at me for? All I did was sell him some stuff. Ask Hu Xianjun. He definitely knows." Hu Xianjun stood up slowly in the crowd. "I don't know," he declared. Kai Luo, wanting to cast away the suspicion on him, retorted, "How can you not know? You let him spend the night at your house." Number 1's face darkened. The other wanderers began to urge Hu Xianjun to say the truth. "Hurry up and say what you know. Do you want us to die because of some outsider?" Hu Xianjun cursed Kai Luo under his breath, before taking a deep breath to compose himself. "That person went in that direction," he said, pointing to the opposite of where Han Xiao had headed. "You're very good, you." Bang! A hole appeared in Hu Xianjun's forehead. He fell back and landed on the ground with a loud thud. Hu Fei shrieked at the sight of his lifeless body. Just like that. Number 1 stared at the Hu Xianjun's dead body. He would not hesitate to kill anyone who helped Han Xiao. Old Hu and couldn't see, but she could hear exactly what had transpired. She stood up from the crowd and attempted to locate her husband. Bang! Her head exploded. Anne's body crumpled to the ground, landing an arm's length away from her husband. Number 1 sneered. Asked for it. Hu Fei was torn with regret. His one moment of greed had caused all of this. All the wanderers were stunned, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Suddenly, Number 1's transmitter lit up, projecting a holograph of the boss's face. "What the hell are you doing? Who gave you permission to kill?" Number 1 instantly shrunk in fear. He hastily began to explain, "These wanderers lied to us. So I was just trying to teach them a lesson. We'll depart right now. Forget it. Since you've already started it, end it properly. Don't let news of this get out." Number 1 nodded and gave a signal. Dusk had fallen. Han Xiao was finally reaching the encampment. Suddenly, the smell of blood filled his nose, causing his heart to sink. "I'm too late." Han Xiao entered the encampment to a gruesome sight. It was the aftermath of a bloodbath. He spotted Hu Xianjun and Anne's lifeless bodies, causing him to shake with rage. Suddenly, a figure got up from the ground. It was the big bearded merchant who had attempted to scam Han Xiao. Kai Luo had fainted at the start of the massacre, and it ended up saving his life. Before he could rejoice, however, he noticed that there was someone looking at him. When he saw that it was Han Xiao, he began to tremble in fear. Han Xiao walked over to him and grabbed his collar. "Tell me what happened here." "It was the Germinal organization." "The Germinal organization? They killed us because we wouldn't tell them where you went." "Ah, they massacred us. You must take revenge for us." For Hu Xianjun. A cough. Han Xiao suddenly heard another person making feeble noises. He followed the sound and found Hu Fei, who was riddled with 5 or 6 bullet holes. He was on the brink of death. When he saw the handgun clutched in Hu Fei's hand, Han Xiao understood exactly what had transpired. Mixed emotions filled him. I told you the gun was dangerous, but you didn't listen. Hu Fei clutched onto Han Xiao's pants with a shaking hand. The sight of him crying was heartbreaking. I shouldn't have been so greedy. I regret it so much. I was wrong. I was wrong. Hu Fei weakly lifted a finger to point at Kai Luo. Don't believe him. He betrayed my uncle. Hu Fei spurted out a big mouthful of blood. I will help you end your misery, said Han Xiao, shaking his head. Crack. Don't listen to H-. Before Kai Luo could finish his sentence, Han Xiao fired a shot. A hole appeared in his head. Kai Luo's body collapsed to its knees. Everyone is dead. You should join them too. Han Xiao closed his eyes tightly. Although Han Xiao's killing intent was skyrocketing, it was being restrained by his logic, much like a caged tiger. The cooler he appeared, the hotter he would erupt. Han Xiao walked over to Hu Xianjun's body. His finger was still outstretched, pointing towards some car trails. The exact opposite of where he had headed to. Hu Xianjun had not sold him out. Han Xiao's heart ached. Even until the end, Hu Xianjun had looked out for him, an outsider. You have activated a classy quest. Revenge. Quest hint. Eliminate the test subject squad. Quest reward. 15,000 experience. Han Xiao left the couple's side and walked into the tent to retrieve Hu Xianjun's prized bayonet musket. For a second, it seemed to glow and call out to Han Xiao. You want to avenge your partner, right? Han Xiao took all the guns in his bag and laid them beside the bayonet musket. He began to dismantle them and use their parts to remodel the bayonet musket. Han Xiao's basic assembly and basic enhancement were both LV-10. Although the names of these two abilities were very simple, they were indispensable abilities of a mechanic. Bayonet rifle modified. Grade average. Base stats. Damage. 66 to 69. Fire rate. 1.1/s. Magazine capacity 10. Effective range 450. Power output 37. Bonus stats +2 dexterity. Length 0.86 m. Weight 8.3 kilograms. Additional effect. Accurate. Wind effects reduced. Additional effect. Piercing. Modified to use large caliber ammo for higher penetration. Description. It hungers for vengeance. Han Xiao counted his sniper bullets. There were 25, all looted from Silver Blade. As there seemed to have only been 2 cars, there was probably not more than 12 enemies. Han Xiao began to give chase into the forest. He knew that it would be impossible to catch up with a car, but that was not Han Xiao's intention at all. There was a high chance that they would realize they had been lied to and head back. Hence, Han Xiao planned to ambush them when they inevitably retraced their steps. Although if Han Xiao fled in the opposite direction, he would be able to shake them off once and for all. An inner voice told him that he would regret it. The quest itself was irrelevant. This was personal. Germinal, spat Han Xiao hatefully. The forest was pitch black at night, making it hard to even see one's fingers. Wolves howled in the distance. Han Xiao had been lying in wait for almost 3 hours. Suddenly, the sound of engines approached. Han Xiao's face twitched. 4 headlights appeared in the distance. Finally, mumbled Han Xiao calmly. He put on one of the Night Owl Squad's night vision goggles and spotted the outline of 2 cars. He then cocked the rifle and held his breath to aim. After 8 seconds, he pulled the trigger. In an instant, the sniper bullet traveled across hundreds of meters to strike a tire on the front car, causing it to explode. The car crashed into a tree. Do you even know how to drive? Cursed a dazed number 1. Leader, the tire exploded. How can a low-pressure tire explode? One of the squad members knelt down to investigate the tire. There's a bullet lodged in here, he suddenly exclaimed. Ambush. Suddenly, the head of the agent closest to number 1 was blown up by a sniper bullet. His blood splattered all over number 1. Get down, he yelled. The agents hurriedly dropped to the ground. A suffocating silence ensued. They were all terrified. Only number 1 was able to contain his nerves, and he immediately called for reinforcements. The test subject squad was pinned. None of them dared to move. Who is ambushing us? No idea. It's so dark here. He must have night vision goggles. What do we do now? Just lie in wait, I think, until reinforcements arrive. Number 1 suddenly exploded. Are you stupid? Won't he escape then? The enemy is one. Why are we so afraid of him? What will the organization think of us? The faces of his teammates instantly changed. It's just one enemy. We have cars, guns, and the advantage in numbers. How can we lose? Number 1 added. Right. We need to counterattack. Ascertain the sniper's position. One squad member plucked up the courage to reveal himself, hoping to bait the sniper into revealing his location. However, the sniper was faster than he could imagine. He was instantly shot. The force of the impact alone caused his body to fly back several meters. Number 1 felt a chill run down his spine. Who is this godlike sniper? The agent's death had not been in vain. One squad member was able to catch the muzzle flash of Han Zhao's rifle. I found him. 300 meters south. Get in the car. Han Xiao could see them get up and run towards the other vehicle. He instantly understood their plan. There were 7 enemies displayed on the thermal imaging. They seemed to be betting on the slow firing rate of a sniper, and were willing to sacrifice 1 or 2 to get to the vehicle. Han Xiao decided not to rush. He calmly fired 2 more shots to kill 2 more of them, before the rest hopped onto the vehicle. The vehicle's engine roared as it charged towards him. All of a sudden, Han Zhao's situation seemed to turn for the worse. However, he still appeared calm. The best tactic, he mused, is also the most predictable one. Go to hell, screamed Number 1 as he stepped on the pedal, not noticing several grenades hanging from midair in their path. The vehicle came to a sudden stop as it ran into the rope that Han Xiao had tied between 2 trees. The 2 trees were almost uprooted by the force of the crash, and the agents in the vehicle were tossed around like rag dolls. Immediately after, the grenades exploded, setting the night ablaze. The bulletproof windshield was heavily cracked by the shrapnel. It was a simple, yet devastating trap. Han Xiao tossed the night vision goggles away as soon as the grenades exploded. The fire from the blast gave him all the vision that he needed. He began to fire. The rifle was so powerful that each shot caused Han Zhao's entire upper body to shudder in recoil. Han Xiao was firing at the windscreen, and from the pattern that the windscreen cracked, it was clear that Han Xiao was aiming for the driver, Number 1. Number 1 gritted his teeth and yanked the person next to him up to use as a shield. In the next instant, the windscreen shattered, and the poor guy's brains blew up in his face. Get out of the car. The remaining agents hastily jumped out of the car. In his rage, Number 1 began to spray wildly with a submachine gun. His teammates blindly followed suit. Han Xiao ceased shooting to reload. Bullets whizzed past in Han Zhao's surroundings. But Han Xiao knew that they did not know his exact location. They were simply panicking. He patiently waited for them to reload. The agents soon realized that they had acted too rashly, but it was too late. Han Xiao now had the initiative. Bang! 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 There was a strangely beautiful rhythm to Han Zhao's shots. As his comrades began to fall one after another, Number 1 started to tremble. As he wildly fired, he screamed, "Who the hell are you? Show yourself." His confidence had been completely and utterly destroyed. Click, click, click. He ran out of ammo once more. Show yourself. Suddenly, Han Xiao walked out into the clearing. Number 1's eyes widened in shock. How can it be? Never in his wildest dreams would he have expected Han Xiao to counterattack. He had, in his hubris, thought for sure that Han Xiao was fleeing for dear life. Despite all the facts proving otherwise, he had stubbornly refused to believe that Han Xiao was better than him. Now it finally dawned upon him. Zero was way stronger than him. His false sense of superiority was instantly replaced by jealousy. I am the better test subject. You are the failure. A failure. He pulled a handgun out and attempted to shoot, but Han Xiao was faster. A sniper bullet tore through Number 1's entire right arm. As Number 1 slowly turned to look at the right side of his body in horror, Han Xiao fired again, this time at Number 1's leg, causing him to collapse to the ground. He then took his time to reload before continuing to maim his remaining limbs. Number 1 lay helplessly on the ground as he stared at Han Xiao hatefully. Zero! He screamed hoarsely like a wounded beast. Keep quiet. Han Xiao strode forward to number 1 to give him a vicious kick in his jaw. Wanna know why I left you for last? Because I don't want you to enjoy a quick death. Number 1 was writhing on the ground, unable to reply. Blood was continuously spurting out of his wounds. Suddenly, the communication device on his severed arm lit up. A holograph of the leader appeared in midair. Zero, that's enough, he said. Han Xiao frowned. I am the leader of the Germinal organization, he introduced. Do you think you can truly escape from us? No matter where you go, the Germinal organization will find you. However, I can give you a chance to live. How? Asked Han Xiao plainly. Return to the organization obediently. I will allow you to retain your memories. You will be given a position you deserve, answered the boss. He was truly fascinated by Han Xiao's strength. Number 1's face grew livid at his leader's words. How could he treat Zero so well after all the men that he had killed? Han Xiao glanced at number 1 and replied tauntingly. You want to rope me in even after I've killed so many of your people? A bunch of failures. Their deaths are not worth mourning, the boss replied instantly. Number 1 shuddered. What makes you think I want to work under you? We are destined to accomplish greater things. Join us. What's there to hesitate? Oh, I know. Is it because you are still unhappy with how we treated you before? Don't be so petty, think of the bigger picture. Such things are trivial when compared to our ultimate goal. Han Xiao replied coldly, I have no interest whatsoever in your ideology. You killed my friends, so you are my enemy. That is all. If you refuse to join us, there will not be a place for you in this world, threatened the boss. I will destroy you all, Han Xiao declared. It was the only solution. The boss burst out in laughter. Destroy us? What do you think you are? You are just a small, pitiful ant that we can squash whenever we want. Did killing a few lowly grunts make you think that you are invincible now? Childish. Wait and see then. The world is bigger than you can imagine. Han Xiao shook his head and raised his gun. He fired 3 shots aimed at number 1's heart. The test subject squad no longer existed. The boss's mask could not conceal his fury. You'll regret this, he coldly warned before ending the transmission. You have killed the number 1, the Valkyrie experiment test subject, gaining 900 experience. You have completed revenge, gaining 15,000 experience. Crack. Suddenly the bayonet rifle came apart. The SWP sniper rifle that Han Xiao retrieved from the test subject squad had the prerequisite of the sniper ability, so Han Xiao dismantled it to fix the bayonet rifle. Han Xiao had gained a total of 20,000 experience tonight. As the Germinal organization would surely come for him, Han Xiao needed to find a hiding place. He was indeed still too weak to take them head-on. The wealth of information that he carried over from the game was his trump card. In order to make good use of it, Han Xiao needed to seek the aid of a power as mighty as the organization. The 6 nations, Star Dragon, Maple, Theseus, Raylan, Hesla, and Ordina. Since he was already in Star Dragon, and they were the most peaceful of the 6 nations, there could be no better choice. The next morning, the boss, Gila, and a group of staff arrived at the wreckage of the battle. The boss snorted coldly at the sight of number 1's corpse. Useless trash. All of them are dead, reported a researcher after they gathered all the bodies. The leader gazed thoughtfully at the mountain range in the distance. Issue a bounty under the name of the organization. $1 million dead or alive, he suddenly ordered. Gila and the rest of the group were shocked by his decision. The Germinal organization was the kingpin of the underworld, and they had not needed to issue a bounty for the past 3 years. Was it really necessary to do so for a lowly trader? My leader, you seem to overrate him. Zero barely managed to escape by the skin of teeth. What threat can he pose to us? That bastard actually dared to declare war against us. So I will make him pay for his arrogance. I will crush him. If Zero is captured alive, use all available means to extract his secrets. If he is killed, then dissect his body to figure it out. What about those people? Asked the researcher as he pointed towards the corpses. The boss was about to order them to be disposed of when a thought crossed his mind. How's the preparation for the Super Soldier project? He asked. The basic theory has been perfected. We are about to proceed with cell and animal testing. We should be able to remove any side effects and carry out human experimentation in 8 months. Skip the testing. Proceed with human experimentation immediately, interrupted the boss. The risks are too huge. Only Valkyrie test subjects can endure the procedure, and there aren't many of them. Rushing things might be unproductive. Experimentation can only create cannon fodder. Only vengeance can create true monsters, he replied enigmatically. He is the perfect subject, he added, pointing at number 1. Hatred will fuel him. No pain will stop him from his desire for revenge. I see. The researcher nodded. Summon his soul, the boss ordered Gila. Gila exhaled deeply before raising her hands in the air. They began to glow in a grayish light, as the surrounding temperature instantly dropped. Suddenly, ghostly wailing resonated in their surroundings, and number 1's body seemed to respond to the cries. A gray, misty cloud of fog began to materialize above number 1 before flowing into his orifices. The boss unfurled his jacket to retrieve a vial of crimson-red fluid. Gila's expression changed when she saw the red fluid. Her eyes flickered with killing intent for a moment. She had to force herself to suppress her emotions. Aurora reviving drug. An extremely powerful healing drug made from her sister's bone marrow extract. The boss poured the fluid over number 1. The fluid seeped into his body, and what followed next could only be called miraculous. Number 1 began to regain his color, and his wounds started to regenerate. The damage to his jaw was reversed, and limbs began to form out of his stumps. Number 1 suddenly opened his eyes. His face was twisted in agony. 0. You have unlocked reputation with the Germinal Organization faction. Your reputation with the Germinal Organization has dropped by 1,000. Germinal Organization. Hated traitor. You have triggered the Class A quest. A seedling in the dirt. Quest synopsis. Freedom is priceless, and you have risked your life to earn it. But your troubles are not over yet. The organization has put a bounty on your head. You will be hunted down for the rest of your day. You may have escaped, but your prison has simply grown larger. In order to obtain true freedom, there is only one path. You know what to do. Quest tip. This quest is an achievement quest. You will be rewarded based on the amount of damage and destruction you cause to the organization. Current achievement rate, 0%. Note, your achievement rate may not be fixed. Your achievement rate may drop. You may also choose to finish the quest at any time. If your achievement rate is less than 20%, you will fail the quest. If your achievement rate is higher than 20%, you will be rewarded based on your achievement tier. Generally speaking, Class B and higher quests were main quests related to key events. In version 1.0, the key event on planet Aquamarine was the clash between the Six Nations and the Germinal Organization, and players were allowed a choice of ally. From Han Zhao's memory, there had been quite a number of players who had allied with the Germinal Organization. This meant that he would have to face up against them eventually. Although the Germinal Organization neither won nor lost, they did suffer huge losses. Han Xiao realized that he would have to watch out for competitors. There were many factions fighting against the Germinal Organization. Han Xiao felt that having to contribute 20% of the total damage done was asking too much. Nevertheless, he accepted the quest without hesitation. There was no harm in trying. This is the main quest line. In version 1.0, the events of Aquamarine were heavily centered around the Germinal Organization. Since Han Xiao would have get stronger on the planet anyway, he would definitely become involved in the war. During the character creation process of Galaxy, the system would ask the player to input his preferences, such as the type of planet or class they would enjoy. From their answers, they would be sent to a planet that suited them. This was a key feature of the game, and attracted many players. Some people simply liked exploring the universe and experiencing different kinds of civilizations. Aquamarine was a more realistic science fiction city-style planet modeled after Earth itself. The truth was that Han Xiao could just hide himself in the wilderness and wait until the Germinal Organization weakened. However, while this ensured his safety, he wouldn't be able to get stronger. When the main plot of the planet unfolded, there would be an influx of quests and missions. With Han Zhao's knowledge of the game, gave him an unfair advantage. 3 days later, Han Xiao finally emerged from the forest. The forest was situated within Star Dragon territory, which made the fact that the Germinal organization dared to set up a base here quite surprising. Perhaps the safest place is where the enemy least expects them to be. Han Xiao walked for a while more before seeing railway tracks. He hopped onto a freight train that was on its way to deliver livestock to the western capital. As the wilderness was fraught with danger, and war seemed like it would break out at any moment, most of the public roads connecting Star Dragon's cities had been blockaded. Resources were transported mainly by freight. Star Dragon's cities were all enclosed in giant electric metal fences. 2 days later, Han Xiao could spot the giant enclosure through the window in his carriage. He swept aside the hens jumping around him to make space to stand up and take a better look. Star Dragon Western Capital. Division 13, here I come. Cock-a-doodle-doo. Star Dragon, one of the 6 nations. The majority of Star Dragon's population was comprised of yellow people, and its national symbol was a celestial dragon. The bad blood between Star Dragon and the Germinal organization can be traced back to the Battle of Andria, where the Germinal organization had colluded with other enemies of Star Dragon to launch large-scale assaults on its cities during the crucial period of the war. Casualties numbered in the hundreds of thousands, and Star Dragon had been forced to recall all its forces. Back then, it had severely weakened their status as one of the 6 nations. All of Star Dragon's cities were barricaded by great electric fences of barbed wire, and the only way to enter any city was through a main gate. The freight train arrived at the open-air train station, connected to the entrance of the city. The area was like a military base. There were bunkers and watchtowers guarded by the army. Troops were stationed in every corner. Over 1,000 wanderers alighted onto the station square. They began to queue up for the inspection. Only those confirmed not to possess weaponry or carry infectious diseases were permitted to enter. The 6 nations all welcomed wanderers. The war had caused a lack of manpower and talent. Han Xiao needed to find a way to evade inspection. The Germinal organization had offered a bounty for him, so things could go awry if he were to be recognized. While his aim was to get in touch with Division 13, he could not risk being exposed before then. Fortunately, there existed a way. Back in the game, players that were wanted by a country simply had to pay a smuggler NPC a fee to be sneaked in. There was a very inconspicuous man in a corner of the station. He was neither queuing up to enter, nor seemed to be waiting for anything in particular. This man was the ringleader of the smuggling business, and normally, he would only serve people who were trusted in their network. Suddenly, he noticed a frail-looking man coming up to him. It was none other than Han Xiao. "Is it safe?" he asked. The ringleader looked up at Han Xiao. It was a face he did not recognize. "Safe?" The ringleader played dumb. "I'll pay with these, enough?" Han Xiao tossed his backpack to the ringleader. He opened the bag up to take a look inside. Holy shit. So many guns. Which syndicate is this young master the boss of? As guns were prohibited in the western capital, Han Xiao had to dispose of them one way or the other. Enough, definitely enough. Where did you learn about my business? He curiously asked. That's none of your business. The ringleader took no offense to Han Xiao. He knew that he had been too inquisitive in his excitement. He got up and asked Han Xiao to follow. Han Xiao was led to a van parked outside the station. There were already a few passengers on board, and when he arrived, he became the center of attention. Han Xiao found a spot and sat down quietly. The windows of the van were plastered with black tape. The van would bring them to a secret military side entrance. As long as the price was right, the officer in charge would turn a blind eye. A short young man was sitting beside Han Xiao. Bored, and seeing that Han Xiao seemed like an easygoing person, the young man spoke to him. Little brother, your first time to the western capital? Han Xiao glanced at him and replied, Yeah, it is. How should I address you? Ma Jiayu. Han Xiao. Hanny, since it's your first time to the western capital, I shall introduce you to the city. The western capital is divided into 8 districts. District 1 is the seat of the government, and where the officials reside. No one is allowed to enter there. The other 7 districts each have their own attractions, but they are all secretly controlled by big shots in the underworld. Remember, never offend any of them, or else you might lose your life. Han Xiao sighed inwardly. The underworld referred to illegal operations like drugs, prostitution, trafficking, and mercenaries. These big shots that Ma Jie mentioned were actually just small-time hoodlums. Ma Jie was clearly trying to brag. What about the army? Asked Han Xiao. What can they do? Do you expect them to raid the districts? My cousin is the right-hand man of one of the bosses in the underworld. I came here to seek Kof. Help him, boasted Ma Jie. Wow, you're so cool, replied Han Xiao. Being praised sent Ma Jie over the moon. Of course. My cousin is quite the figure in Western capital. Have you ever heard of his great name, the leopard? Oh right, it's your first time here. Are you here to seek refuge with relatives? No, I've come to find a job and settle down. Han Xiao chose a random answer. What do you say? Wanna come with me? Follow my brother, and you will have a bright future. Ma Jie suddenly became animated. Han Xiao rejected his offer, but Ma Jie was not easily dissuaded. Let me tell you what ordinary life is like in the city. 2 words, poverty and sadness. Do you want to eat spoilt food every day? The 6 nations are just putting on a show to welcome wanderers like you. The truth is that they could hardly give a damn about you. If you follow me, I can guarantee that you'll be fed well for the rest of your life. No thanks. Han Zhao's repeated refusals clearly upset Ma Jie. Fool. You'll regret this. Don't come crying to me in the future. Han Xiao ignored the idiot and turned away. Ma Jie glared at him. A while later, the van stopped in front of what seemed to be a closed tunnel. There was an officer waiting for them on the other side of the fence in the tunnel. He opened the passageway to let them in upon receiving payment from the ringleader. Follow the officer, he will bring you to the outskirts of the city. The officer silently led them through the compound. When they finally stepped out into the sun, they were greeted by a line of skyscrapers in the distance. As the group scattered, Ma Jie glared at Han Xiao one more time before going on his way. As Han Xiao walked on the streets, he noticed that his tattered clothes were gaining a lot of attention. Without any money to quench his thirst, he had to look for a public water dispensary. All he had to his name was a 7-day stench. Of course, none of it actually posed a problem to him. Half an hour later, Han Xiao emerged from a shopping mall dressed in a white shirt and black pants. There was a cigarette in his mouth. You have unlocked a new ability, LV1 Steal. Steal increases your success rate when stealing. In his previous life, many real-life skills had practical use in the game. For example, someone who had a military background would have an easier time grasping shooting-related abilities in the game. As the saying goes, one can never learn too many tricks. Han Xiao only acquired skills in thievery as a means of self-defense against thieves. Me a thief? Hey, don't accuse me of stealing if you don't have proof. I, the Venerable Han, am a law-abiding, state-loving citizen. Back in secondary school and high school, I was always the model student. I was in the top 3 every year. People always praised me for being a righteous young man. Plus I've never even peeked on a girl before, much less steal. As for now, cough, I'm just borrowing some money from a kindred soul out of desperation. You feel me, bro?
Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If you'd like to request updates on any novel, consider becoming a Patreon or Ko-fi member. Based on your membership tier, I'll create additional parts for the novel you're interested in. Normally, I'll only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel due to limited time. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps.